Let's
Yo,
go.
what is up? What is up, Leche fam? Welcome to
Leche
episode
fam.
2 of Halo Halo Time.
That's
This time
dalawa.
I'm dalong episode na.
Wow.
Wow.
We are
Actually, I think to say padalwa, right?
Yeah.
Padalwa.
padalwa. Yeah.
There it is.
We're learning. We're learning
Yes.
together, including you, fam. Leche fam out there who is
Yes.
watching this episode. I'm joined by Amor,
Hello.
Kuya Rob.
What's up?
I guess I could call you Kuya Nick. I mean, you just have it
Yeah.
Nick on there, but
Yeah.
Kuya Nick and
Kuya.
Ate
He's
Maan.
actually Kuya Nikki.
Technically, we're the
Oh,
oldest.
Nikki.
Kuya Nikki. We gotta talk about
Kuya.
Filipino nicknames one of these days.
I'm actually Nikki, but spelled
Are you?
Nikki. That's why it's Nik. But
Ah,
my parents
Nicki
didn't know.
Minaj.
and-
Nice.
My parents didn't know Nikki is actually the girl's way of spelling it.
You know,
But
supermodel
I've always gone Nikki all the way through. And
Interesting.
I found out later that's the girl's way. I'm like,
It's okay.
oh,
You're still loved.
There's also like if there was other Nicks in there in the family, you would just be like saying it twice. You'd be like
yeah.
Kuya Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Nick.
There's Nick, Nikki,
Oh, that's
Dominic.
something
What is Dominic?
Dominic. You know, there's
Yeah,
all the different
Iterations.
Nicks.
for sure.
Yes.
But they called me
Um,
Kalai. Kalai was like the Filipino way of saying Nicholas.
There's
So
more to
when
the
I would get in
nickname.
trouble, it'd be like Kalai.
Oh
Kalai.
my God, isn't that terrifying?
And my
Oh.
brother's James, and he'd be like Jaime.
Interesting.
Oh, Jaime.
Damn.
When I was in trouble, it would just be like, "Hey, you, idiot, get over here." No, I'm kidding.
Idiot or idiot?
Idiot.
Idiot. Idiot. No,
Idiot.
your parents really didn't have. Did your parents have an accent really?
No, they didn't. They
No.
didn't and
Oh.
don't.
Yeah.
There was something we were talking about on someone's live stream, the pronunciation of something else, but then in my family we always joke about like if you're in the medical field as a Filipino, you say the potassium levels or potassium levels
The
levels
potassium.
potassium.
Lebe-
Forget the
Lebels?
other word that potassium.
Wait,
Potassium.
hey, Rob, your parents don't have a Filipino accent?
They
Were
came
they,
in
No.
the 60s, right?
they were
No.
born in the U.S.?
Born in the U.S. Yeah, and my dad's and his parents moved back to the Philippines for I think maybe a year or 2 years when he was really young.
So when did your
Um,
grandparents come to the U.S.?
When?
Yeah, your grandparents.
When?
In the 50s?
Yeah, mid 50s, something like that.
Right
Wow,
after
must
war.
be a different time.
Yeah, it was.
'Cause
Totally,
my parents came. My mom came in 1969 to Canada, and my dad came in 1972.
So they were also young adults and went to school here. So
Yeah.
they don't have an accent either. But his mom has a very cool, like
She has a twang.
southern twang. When she starts talking, like she's very professional.
She has a
used to be a
Canadian-
director, right? And she sounds like, oh, you're from Texas?
It's
where
weird.
did she move to in North America when
You're
she
in
moved?
Toronto.
Toronto. She came to
wow.
Toronto.
When she gets like really like in her like her speeches and stuff like that, she sounds like she has a twang.
like a Canadian
Southern-
twang, or
Twang.
or a Canadian.
twang.
Yeah, southern
Interesting.
twang.
and my dad too.
Yeah,
but
your
then your
dad too.
parents have a deep
They have
Filipino
a
accent.
they do.
But they came in the
it's-
90s.
Yeah, but it's fluently like English too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fluent
yeah,
English,
yeah.
but it's like the
Yeah, yeah.
typical P's and
Yes.
F's and the V's and the B's.
Yes.
all
Come
mixed up.
over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Over here.
Ober.
And
Yeah.
he and she
Yep.
is just Sha. So Nikki could be a she,
Oh,
and I could be a
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
Like
because of the Sha.
Smurf
right?
is Smarf, and
Smurfs.
anything with the it's like R. So Smarfs, and I can't
Yeah.
think of it.
oh, interesting.
What was another medical thing that we'd always make fun of? Oh, cardiac
Cardiac
arrest.
Carjack.
It's like, oh dang, you got your car stolen?
Or Jack.
Oh, damn.
It's a carjack
Oh.
arrest. They're getting arrested too.
They got arrested for stealing cars.
Oh no.
Oh my god, I love that.
They're boosting,
Funny, I
they're
never
boosting
thought
cars
of
up in
it.
here.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Rob's gonna be say that. Dad, you
So much
you scared
material,
me.
guys.
You scared me so
Carjack
much. You gave me carjack arrest.
Palpitation.
That's so good.
Oh my
Another
God.
word.
Oh my
Another
god.
word I always didn't. Well, whenever I hear slow put, I didn't even realize
yeah.
it's slow foot that they're
You're so
saying.
slow put.
I was slow put.
You're
You guys
slow
hear?
footed.
You know slow put?
Oh, is that what that
Bilis,
is?
bilis.
It's
Yes.
slow foot. They're trying to
We're
say.
just telling Fred that it's.
Is
Don't
it
be
saying
I thought it was
slowpoke.
just them. I just thought it was just them screwing up slowpoke.
Me too.
No,
You're slow footed.
That's
It's your-
exactly what I
your-
thought that was.
Right.
really? Oh wow,
you're,
that's
you're
hilarious.
slow footed. Is your you slow put?
Don't be slow put.
That's hilarious.
The mo-
we
the
can write
more
the
you-
dictionary.
Yeah,
Like the glass shattering thing.
We can
Wow.
write a dictionary about this, English to English.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
English to English.
Slow.
Yeah.
That makes
Slowfoot.
sense. Yeah.
Slow
Oh
foot.
my
So now
Mine
you know.
was,
Oh no, Fred's gonna
apricot.
wonder all the times he was called slow footed.
Oh, apricada.
Apretada.
I always say apretada,
Yeah.
but it's afritada.
It's
With the
Didn't
F.
know. It's my favorite, and I had no idea. I had no idea. I feel like my grandparents just thought that I was like making fun of them or something, because like
yeah.
oh, can we have apretada?
Apretada. But that's
Yeah, right?
But that was the only word that I would say like that. So
But that's like leche plan.
Leche
It's leche
plan.
flan.
that too,
I
yeah.
always thought it was leche plan.
Yeah.
Leche plan. That's
But
hilarious.
speaking of food, last week, Atema and I were showing off halo halo,
Yeah.
and we have
Mhm.
another. I don't know if this is Filipino,
beets.
but
it's not. There's no peaches in the Philippines. I gotta tell you guys that, right? There's no
but this
Mango.
is from a Filipino fast food, Jollibee,
Jollibee.
and
Peach
it's
mango pies.
peach mango pie.
There are definitely
peats.
mangoes in the Philippines.
Peats.
I
Peats.
apparently have some mango farms.
And so when you open it up, I don't want it
nice
comes
and crisp,
nice and
Oh.
deep fried,
but it's almost like
deep fried
Looks so good.
mango.
Oh.
In there.
you know what it
Mm.
needs? Vanilla ice.
It's like McDonald's apple pies. It's kind of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
for those who are wondering, it's kind of
yes,
packaged that way, and it kind of looks
Exactly.
that way.
exactly.
And here, take a bite and
the
tell us
innards.
how-
Yeah, show them the stuffing.
Ooh, the crunch.
Oh, the
Everyone else
crunch.
is on Halo Halo time. We gotta up our food game. Looks like.
delicious crunch. It's really
I know.
good.
Next
It's
week, you guys.
it's
Yeah.
more deep fried than the apple pie McDonald's. I feel like the apple pie. This
So
one
there's-
is like more oily. Mm.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna die now.
You can hear the deep friedness in just
Yeah.
the bite.
The
bite
Filipinos
alone.
really know how to deep fry stuff. It's a
Mm.
thing.
But having said that, Jollibee's pretty expensive.
I didn't even check the pricing on this, but the lineup was very, very long always, and this place has been open for a good 5 years now. And
Did you order
just,
anything else?
I
Well,
got him the Aloha burger.
Yeah, I got the for the first time, but I was looking. It's like almost $14 for like a burger. Where at McDonald's, this would be like $5.95 or something.
maybe 7.
Or maybe
we're
7.
old now. Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
basically Aloha burger is bacon, and then underneath the bacon is
Pineapple.
pineapple circle, like a
Yeah.
slice of pineapple,
Mm.
and
And
then
then
you
the
got
meat
the
side.
burger, and then you got the lettuce underneath.
Yeah.
And whatever sauce.
Aloha.
Yeah,
It's
Aloha.
good.
It's a nice.
I don't know if it's $14 good, but
I-
it's good. I like it.
I did get the 2 peach mangoes, that Aloha burger, and fries, and like a combo with a drink. And I think I paid just under $30. So
Maybe it's $14 Canadian, so maybe
Yeah,
$10
maybe 10
American. So
No Filipino spaghetti. No.
no, there was
palabok?
there was
Palabok?
palabok.
Yeah.
There but like the lineup is so long. I'm not a big fan of lineups. Like even in any circumstance, if I see a lineup, it already deters me from putting an order through. But I knew I had to take one for the team. So
You mean
and
lineup as in just like a long
yeah,
long
I
line?
have an
Or
issue
what?
with lineups.
so many people wanting to
Yeah.
spend their money at
Yeah.
Jollibee.
And so
Is that a,
you know,
wait? Is that a Canadian thing saying
no,
lineup?
it's me. It's me.
Oh,
Why?
okay.
What do you say?
I just
We
call
say
it like a
lineups.
long line.
line.
Oh, lineups.
Yeah.
Or do you guys say the queue? That's what they
No,
say. in
that's-
No,
that's
no,
English.
no. We don't
That's
say
English.
Q.
At
Unless
Disneyland,
we're
I'll say Q.
Disneyland or Disney.
Yeah,
at Disneyland, I'll say Q.
Everywhere
else-
I say Q.
It's just a line. It's just, if I see a long line, I ain't
It's a
gonna
line.
touch it.
Oh, lineups.
No, we say lineups.
Yeah,
I
lineups.
didn't realize that's a Canadian thing.
Wow.
Canadian thing.
This
Yeah.
is
I don't say that.
okay.
Never
I need,
heard
my
of it.
notebook
A
here.
A lineup for me is like a list of things.
like
that-
a baseball
yeah,
lineup.
exactly. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
was thinking
or
like
a
a
fade.
long lineup,
Like a
like you
fade, dude.
had a long menu or something.
Oh,
Or maybe
That's so
is it
funny.
a Filipino thing? Is that
No,
another
no.
Filipino
I'm-
thing?
everybody here says line up.
People are
I
lining
hate
up?
lining up.
That makes
But if
sense.
people are lining,
Oh,
people are lining
okay.
up, but you say
Mm.
a lineup.
Is this a Filipino thing? I know other cultures do it too, but I want to see
Yeah.
what you guys think of it. So
Okay.
when you roll up to a McDonald's, right? You have the choice to go
Oh, I have a
do
comment.
one of two things. You either go to the drive-through or you go inside. But when the decision is given to you, they say, "Do you want to go to the drive-through or go down?" Did they ever say go down
Oh,
rather
I
than
don't
say
know.
No.
go inside?
We say
like-
go inside.
I've heard go down
Right.
as a Filipino thing.
And maybe it's just one of those things, like subconscious
Let's go
things you
down.
didn't even think about it. But
Let's go down. Let me trigger this.
I always heard, do we
Go
just go
down.
to the drive? The line
go
is still
down.
long there in the
just
drive-through.
go
Let's
down.
Let's just go down.
go down.
I'm trying to absorb this.
Maybe
you
like
know?
getting out of the car.
Wow.
Is that
Never-
like
I've
getting out of the
never
car
heard
is
that. Go down.
going down. But
But we
Not
don't
heard that.
say.
we
Wait.
don't really.
You mentioned something when you go into the drive-through. You roll up into the drive-through.
Yeah, we don't say roll up.
We don't say roll up.
That seems too
Oh.
gangster for us.
We say
Hmm.
drive. We go drive
Drive up.
through
Drive-
the drive-through.
drive-
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too.
No, no. That's
too,
why I wasn't.
roll
too
up.
SoCal hood.
I know,
Yeah,
yeah,
SoCal.
SoCal.
Fred's too street for us.
Hey, SoCal.
That's not a Filipino
When you
thing.
roll up, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Even Amor heard roll up. He started looking behind him. Like, what?
Oh, stop!
No.
Am I wearing the right color?
Yeah. But we have
No,
like,
but that was the thing.
yeah.
Go
down.
down.
Yeah.
Like,
I
is
don't
that a?
I'm not
Again, let's just go in.
I don't think
not
so.
familiar.
No, I think we said my mom anyway. We'll say let's go in, let's go in, let's go in, not go
Yeah.
down. Do
I've
you say
heard
go
like
down?
baba or
But what would you say?
Baba.
Baba tayo. Baba tayo.
Ooh.
Baba baba is another whole phrase
Bab-
in itself. Beautiful, eh? Are you
What's-
going
what's that?
down? Baba baba. Are you going down?
yeah, going is that going downstairs or
Yeah,
getting out of
going
the car?
downstairs.
Oh,
Going down the stairs is baba baba.
because I always like when they say getting out of the car, it's like, are you gonna go down? So I thought that's like
Oh,
getting
go
out of the
down.
car.
No,
Right.
yeah.
And even
Maybe-
if it was like, you have a low car, it'd still be going down. You're going to go down from your lowered
Yeah,
car.
fireman.
Going down from what?
Where's your stair? Where's the ladder?
For what?
My
wanna
parents
go.
and Fred's
Yeah.
parents are from the same
Yeah,
province.
I think so. Maybe it's provincial.
same province.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's just
Maybe.
like
What are you guys, Visayas?
my mom's side, Visayan.
Yeah. See,
My dad's
was-
Visayan.
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Maybe
now.
that go down is a Visayan thing. There we go.
Let's
Maybe
go
there.
Write it down,
Mm.
everybody.
We need some
In the
people
notes.
Research.
who are Visayan.
Tell us in the
Tell us.
comments if anyone's from
Yeah.
Visayas. If you say
Go
Go
down.
down.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now you thought about it, Rob. You were just like, what did they say?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because
I'm
like
trying to remember.
like when my parents would be working or whatever, and like I was done with school, we would go to my grandparents' house and we would go to like McDonald's or whatever. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
think, like, it was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
I was like, would she say go down? I'm not sure.
Let's go.
that
in.
sounded so familiar when Fred said go down.
Go down.
and, like going into like a restaurant.
I had to present it in the accent though, because
It's either
otherwise,
way in the
If it
car.
wasn't in the accent, I wouldn't be thinking about it.
Yeah.
But
right.
because it was the accent.
It's like
It
you have
was
to think
either-
about the elder that like presented to you that way,
Yeah.
right? But it's like I hope it's like, ooh, I hope we go down because I want to get into the place.
Yeah.
Let's go down. Yeah.
See, I think
wanna-
for us,
wanna-
for us, it wasn't a drive-through. It was either are you gonna stay in the car or are you gonna go down?
But not go out.
Oh.
Go
So it's
down.
either stay in the car or
Oh.
do you want to go down?
I wanna go down.
Interesting.
So I think that
It
was
is.
because it wasn't a
We're
drive-through.
totally
so like
breaking
even
down
like
the
going to like
language
the mall
barrier
or going
here.
to the store or something like that. Do you want to stay in the car or do you want to come down?
This
Or
is
go
some
down.
heavy analysis, guys.
I know. It's,
Yeah, I keep thinking back and like, is this a thing that was said and I just
Yeah.
forgot?
Go down.
Like, I'm like going over conversations in my head. Like, it's like, has that ever been
Go down.
uttered by my parents and I just like phased it out or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right. Like it just never phased you because you already understood, like you knew what that meant. Like
yeah,
it's like closing the lights. You know what I mean? Like closing
Oh,
or
yeah,
open
I've-
the lights. It's like
I've had that.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Close the lights. Open
Instead
the
of
lights.
switching
turn off,
on,
turn
switching
on.
off.
right.
Yeah.
And then you say it like in an American household, they're like,
Close the
Mm.
lights. Close it.
turn it on. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Close.
Opening
What
the
are you closing?
lights. You know, physically go up there and
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they open and close the
Open.
windows. They open and close the windows in the Philippines
Yeah,
to get
That's
light,
how the light comes
Yeah.
in, I suppose. Close the light.
or the blinds.
Open the
my
light.
gosh.
Oh my
What was
gosh.
the light?
Dang. So, but we
Betwixt.
got so far. We got so
There it
far.
is.
We
I
got.
wanna
You
see
did
it.
15, 16 minutes, basically.
I didn't say it.
It was
No,
close.
said it.
We're
I
listening
almost
to
said
it.
it.
You're like, say it.
I almost said it.
You said B, and we all.
Is that
said
like
Betwixt.
is that part of the hollow time bingo card now? It's like
Yeah, maybe.
whenever
Oh, yeah, sure.
Fred has to
Take
say
a drink?
betwixt,
It's funny.
and it's like, oh, he got my bingo. I got bingo.
Betwixt.
No, we went. What did we go? Oh, we were talking about lining up,
Yeah.
lineup versus.
Oh.
just
Oh,
line.
yeah.
Yes.
And then going down.
So the
Like,
lineup
It was a long lineup
at
at
Jollibee was so long, and I don't know. I'm maybe not a very patient person, but especially for
Mhm.
super lineups, like I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. And then while you're in line and you're close already to when they're about to call you to the cash, somebody comes there with an iPad going, oh, what's your order? And I get
Oh, ahead of
excited.
time.
So they're almost like making it feel like they're expediting your
That's like the
your
Lego
visit.
store.
The Lego store or Disney World, you know what I mean? Like there's some sort of like distraction. And she asks for your order. I happily give it. She goes, and what's your name? Maria. Spell that. I'm like, really? Like, you're Maria too. I don't understand. I bet you're Maria.
The most
That's
common
all
name.
those women
Everyone
there,
is
they're
named
all
Maria
Maria
here.
But, okay, Maria. And then she's like, I Maria.
Oh.
Okay, sure.
Wow.
And so that was like, I think I was like third before they called. When that person is there to take the order, I keep on thinking, is it expedited? When I get to the counter, is it just like me tapping and paying, and then I get the glorious order already?
But you have to order again.
But
probably, right?
not really.
Oh.
Well, not quite. So the expedited is you go there and you just say the password Maria, and then they
Everyone behind you is Maria.
Yeah.
You have
to
how
come
many?
in too.
Yeah. How many?
and then they
Maria.
read you your order, right? They read you the order, and then you punch out. But because there's so many people still in line ahead of you, you're not going to get your order any faster, right? So I
No.
think you wait in line for like a good 20 minutes, and then you're still waiting for another good. And this is fast food. But I think, again,
Yeah.
with the whole idea with like the whole
Slow-
fast food
slow
industry, everything has been slower. Or is it
Yeah.
just I become a crotchety old woman? I don't know. But it's
You're
like
used to the drive-through.
I'm used to the drive-through, but even then, sometimes it's like, I order like French fries, and maybe McDonald's, they're like, they've run out of French fries, and they make you like sit
Oh,
at a
they make-
parking
What's
lot.
usually
You're
the
like, you are
nuggets.
made for French fries. I
The
don't understand
nuggets
why you
take a
don't have
while.
this going on and on and on. Yeah, crotchety.
I don't know. Maybe it's a mix of the two.
Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I feel like in America, the fast food, it's still pretty.
It's still pretty
No,
fast.
Okay,
Snack
quick.
maybe Jollibee itself
Might
is
be
just so
Canadian.
saturated, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
Maybe
I
that's
do
it.
feel for them, and okay, I'm gonna go branch a little bit, just a little bit, but Costco also has food, right? Like you order the fries, the hot dog, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. When we go to the Costco over in the US, it's not busy at all. Like it's like, oh my God, there's like COVID here again. There's hardly anybody in Costco. It's crazy. But the Costco's here, especially in our area, it's always so full. And particularly, of course, when people are coming out and ordering food, there's no pause to the order. So, everything is self-serve when you order. You select everything on the computer.
The tickets
And
come
then
up
the
for them.
tickets come out to the people, of course, who are serving. But there's no pause for them when, say, 60 people all at once orders. But there's only so many oil vats for French fries and hot dogs and pizza, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So ultimately, like they're slammed. I have never seen them not slammed. That I'm like, you guys need to like work out something to improve your efficiencies or your sanity, because you can't help 60 people. I almost feel like once there's say 20 orders, then the machines go for a 5-minute break just to help them like catch up. Just, I don't know, for sanity. So my last experience with them was just a couple of nights ago. I went there, got some groceries. Next, like, oh, get me poutine if you're on the way out. And if
you guys have poutine in your Costco's or no?
No, man, poutine is
I
a
was
magical
just gonna-
Canadian
Super
thing.
Canadian. Yeah, that's
I
You
was
should-
just
you
gonna
should be
comment
jealous.
on that.
That's like
I'm
You should be
pissed.
jealous.
hockey level Canadian or curling
You know-
level Canadian.
We have a lot of poutine here. I'm gonna tell you, Costco poutine is probably the best poutine that
So
I've
good.
What even is
And
poutine? I don't
so
even know what it
cheap.
is actually. What is it?
What?
French
Really?
What?
fries with like
Uh-huh.
gravy and cheese
Oh,
curds.
cheese
So
curds.
you
Cheese
put,
curds.
so you put
Oh,
the French fry,
wow.
but it's not cheesy fries.
So they're like
not
chunks of
cheesy
cheese.
fries.
Chunks of cheese.
This is like
When you pour-
mozzarella chunks.
When you pour the gravy, the
Interesting.
cheese starts to melt.
all melt, and so you pull out a French fry, and all that gooey deliciousness. Just
So
But
wraps
you've tried the
around.
Costco French fries, right? They're like coated,
Yes.
and so that's what makes the Costco
Extra
poutine is
crisp,
good because it's
extra
like
Better.
coated,
Oh.
coated
so
fries.
delicious. But when I placed this order 2 nights ago, right before 8:30, because the store closed at 9 p.m., right? They ultimately ran out of the containers for poutine. So it's almost like the computer
Wow.
has
No,
to
Fred's-
be.
Fred's like, what the-
I know. The computer has to somehow be linked to some sort of inventory that should they, estimate that it's going to run out within the next 7 orders, poutine should not be able to be ordered.
They should have enough for like the whole week or something.
They should
Not
have
for,
enough
like,
forever.
enough containers
Yeah,
for like
Costco, right?
the day.
But-
That's
Costco.
like the brand.
But
They
this,
go to the
Right.
back and get more containers.
but this speaks to the popularity of poutine, speaks to, again, people come out of their groceries honking full of cart of stuff, and then, yep, I still want to
And-
bring food home
and they're
and
poutine.
eating it on the way out while people check my receipt. Yeah, this is
I,
delicious.
mean,
I
I
went
would
to the
eat
what's
poutine.
the
Yeah.
what's like is it like a chicken wrap or something at Costco? You know what I'm talking
There
about?
used to be, yes, they
There's
like a
removed
chicken
it
bake?
from
wrap.
us.
Yeah, the chicken
Chicken
bake, the
bake?
chicken
Oh my
bake,
god, it's
the
so good.
chicken
They
bake.
removed
Oh,
it.
chicken
They
bake.
removed
That's
it from
my
us. Chicago still has
That's your
it.
jam.
Detroit
my
still
go-to.
has it.
Yep.
So when I went to Chicago Costco, I had to buy one. Me and my mom
Yeah.
split it. And they
Yeah,
also
that's
had
my go-to.
churros. They also had churros in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't have we don't
We
have
don't have
churros.
churros.
here.
Do we
So-
in the US? Do we have fries at Costco? And I just
Yes.
haven't had it.
Fries is a
Right, you said
staple.
fries, and I don't think that we
Fries
have
and the
fries.
hot dog.
Wait, you don't have
No.
fries?
We have
Mm,
pizza.
I
We
don't
got hot
remember.
dogs. We got the
Pizza,
chicken
yes.
bake.
No,
Yeah,
But I
it's
think
always
that's it.
pizza or hot dogs.
Yeah,
And
Oh.
I would
there's
go.
no fries.
Yeah.
Costco fries are probably the best fries. Better than McDonald's fries.
so good.
Oh wow!
So
Better than McDonald's
crispy,
fries.
Like,
They're coated.
magic.
They're coated. They're long and they're
and
they're crispy.
once
Yeah,
upon
they-
a time,
we definitely don't have that.
when
We don't
people,
have
I
fries.
guess when food services didn't care about portion control, once upon a time, it used to be such a massive serving.
It's still pretty big.
But now they've halved it. Do you remember when it was double the size? I remember. So once upon a time, Costco used to be Price Club. That was the parent company or the company from 1990s.
Yeah,
And they didn't
remember
have any
that.
of these food services. But on the way out, when you're showing your cash thing, my parents have always been members at Price Club. They have a little kiosk just to sell hot dogs. And this is how old I am. Hot dogs in Costco used to be 25 cents Canadian. And that
That's like
included a drink,
IKEA.
25 cents.
IKEA
And now,
prices.
I mean, it's still good. Like it's only $2 still, and you get a drink, right? So
okay,
it hasn't,
yeah. $2.
but to be able to give a quarter tax free to the person who's like selling it
hot
to you,
dog.
for a hot dog. But then of course the French fries and that whole food services really developed right after. But it's always interesting to see different Costco from different part of the world. Like you can actually Google this because they serve different things in Costco Australia, Costco Japan.
Oh, you can see.
You can see it, yeah. Costco,
Oh.
yeah.
Hmm.
So wherever they have
Mm.
whatever Costco, they like I guess McDonald's, right? They kind of try to cater it to the local because I'm sure the ingredients that they can find there also help supplement.
Like the
and support-
longanisa burger I had in
Oh my god, that's
in
amazing!
the
Longanisa
Philippines.
burger.
That sounds
Longanisa burger.
It was like
Is
a
there Costco
breakfast.
in
It
the
was like a,
Wow!
it was like a breakfast burger at McDonald's when I was there like
Oh my
5
god, I want
ever
some
ago.
longanisa right
Longanisa.
now.
When it was a longanisa
Wow.
burger, and like they serve rice
Yeah.
Yeah, of
chicken.
course.
yeah.
at McDonald's.
Wait, rice
like,
in your
the Philippines. No, not rice in the
separate.
burger. I mean like separate.
Separate.
But I mean
Oh,
like
okay,
you,
okay.
like you said, like just referring to like how
That'd
there's
be
different
interesting.
Yeah.
food items at
Different
in other
locations,
McDonald's.
yes,
Yeah, different
yes,
locations.
from
Yeah, they have
different
muck
things.
spaghetti. I remember.
Mac
in-
spaghetti in
in
the
the
Philippines,
spaghetti,
which is weird. That
they
should be
do.
totally Italian, right?
And they call it McDo. McDo.
McDo.
Macdo. Yes.
Yeah.
But we're now at second episode here, and I feel like we got carried away in all these fun facts and frivolities. Because
But
we're just-
before we move forward, I'm gonna rewind a little bit. Did they
Yeah.
call you Mum Sir at Jollibee? That's all I gotta know.
Question.
No,
No, they
No,
messed
no,
up
there
then.
is no
Time.
mom, sir. Although
Unbelievable.
I feel like the lady who was, up front on her iPad.
Yeah.
I feel like she had the urge to say it, but she
To
had
say
to
Mom,
control
sir.
herself because I'm sure
Really?
I feel like perhaps her background not too long ago was from that environment, right? Like where she
I can
had
say
to
that.
mom, sir.
Mom, sir.
But all
Okay.
of the young staff who are serving in Jollibee, I'm sure they're mostly Canadian born. Like
But they're all Filipino.
they're full of, no, there's also Indian, there's also
Okay.
Chinese, like
Hmm.
it's
It's not
But
just.
none of them
Equitable
called you Mum
workplace.
Sir.
Not here in Canada, but in the Philippines. 2 months.
Sad.
Yeah, I'm mom, sir.
Sad.
Like part of the whole experience.
Didn't expect
That is part of the whole experience.
Mum,
Being
sir.
called mum sir at a
Yeah.
Jollibee.
Mum, sir.
Not
Yeah.
in this Jollibee.
If you don't get called that, did you really go to a Jollibee?
I don't
You know?
know. Did I really
part
just
of the-
get this from like Amazon? Maybe.
Yeah,
Was this
Like,
just
there's
some
those
random
24
pop-up
24
that
hours
wasn't
delivery.
legit?
Right? Right? It's an old container, but it's really a McDonald's apple pie in there.
Yeah. Sarap.
That's hilarious.
So
pretty
dead.
Mum, sir.
I'm so dead.
Oh, mum, sir.
Gosh,
Mum,
mum,
sir.
sir. But moving along, I know last week, kind of to start off our Hollow Hollow podcast, we were kind of introducing the cast, in which myself and Kuya Nick and Ate Maan were kind of introducing ourselves, kind of how we grew up Filipino, how it tied to our Lego collecting. And we have 2 new people, I guess, on the hot seat
Yes.
to kind of a hot seat to undergo a little bit of an introduction to obviously to each other, because I mean, as long as we've known each other, we there's still plenty of things to learn, but also for you, the audience, to learn about the people that will be coming through here and kind of hosting Hollow Hollow time as we continue with these episodes. So today on the hot seat is the flaming hot seat.
The sizzler.
I'm spicy. I'm spicy, and the spicy in the man is more Amor, of course, and Kuya Rob, who will be introduced this week, or I guess this episode. So I'm excited to learn more about Rob. More, I've known you for a really a fairly long time now, which is crazy to think. A long time in I guess internet standards.
12 months.
Yeah.
In the internet, well,
How many times have you guys actually met in person?
Zero.
No way.
That's so,
Zero.
But we interact like
I actually love that.
regularly.
Yeah.
Amor, you had said that you've never really met
No,
any other content creators.
No,
before.
yeah, I could be
We're
very not
invading
real.
you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amor's
I
been
am.
AI this whole time.
yeah.
Just a
This
white
is the
dude.
whole team. It's the
Yeah.
whole team right here.
It's like Ratatouille, dude. It's like a bunch of like
Yeah.
rats
why I always
trolling.
wear
It's a combination
someone
of
underneath
AI
there.
voice acting. I mean, I don't know.
But we are going to meet at Rick Slopes.
Yes.
At least whatever version of you that
That's
comes.
exciting.
Paid actor.
This sounds like Black Mirror, guys. Very Black Mirror right now.
The paid actor that will be
That's so funny.
Amor.
But we'll I guess we're talking to Amor. Amor I've known
Yeah.
for three going on. It'll be going on 3. It'll probably be about 2,
It'll be
more
going
like
on
2.5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that long, and we've gone this long without having actually met each other. But that's mainly because of Corned Beef 19. Let's face it. There's a
Yeah, we
lockdown,
met like right in
You know.
the middle of all that, like when that was all going on.
Sounds like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never heard someone call it
Sorry.
corn.
Is that
Corned
COVID?
Well,
beef,
I'm gonna
Is that
rewind.
COVID?
I'm gonna time
You
out.
want time out. I was gonna say, you want to give
We're gonna
context
give
for corned
context to
beef
Corned
19?
Beef 19. So there is this video that kind of went viral right at the beginning of COVID, and it was a Filipino newscast, a news show. And in this interview, the lady is just like talking to random people on the street, and this guy is who they're talking to, right? This guy is who they're talking to, and he's like, and then I don't know what question she asked, but it cuts to him immediately answering the question, and the guy is like, yeah, they have that. I think it's in Tagalog too, but I'm just doing
Yeah,
it
it
kind of in broken English. They have that virus, the virus over there, the corned beef 19, and then the interviewer was even like, Wait,
What?
what did
Yeah.
you call it?
Oh
She
man,
It's like,
asked-
I
yeah,
remember
she
yeah,
that.
asked
you
me.
know. It's like,
Oh
what
my
did you say
God.
again? It's like, yeah, the virus, the virus COVID-19. And then it just ended, and it was like and it was just one of those things you just like crack up at. Like, I can't believe that guy called it corned beef 19. So
That's what we
since
call. Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
I call it corned beef 19 because I've introduced it to people on stream, and I've played the clip numerous times on
Oh my
stream
gosh.
to all the
Yeah.
other people who are like, why are you calling it corned beef 19? What do you got? What beef do you have against corned beef?
God, I just had
Yeah,
some
we-
this morning.
I know.
Yeah, we refer to it as corned beef 19.
For
Hi,
for
I'm
everyone
positive for
watching,
corned beef.
for everyone watching that does not come from a Filipino family, that like imitation from Fred was the perfect like Filipino uncle imitation.
Yeah, that was like
Perfect ratio of
perfect.
actual
Virus, man.
words
Virus,
to
just perfect.
right?
Yeah.
And the virus, what do you call the virus? What?
Yeah.
The
Yung kwan,
beef.
ano yun?
19.
Kwan.
Uh,
But yeah, in the course of the 2.5 years, it's because of your family,
Mhm.
our geographic location, which is not that far, really.
No.
And of course, corned beef 19 that has prevented us from like actually meeting up. I can't even say it. I can't even say it now with a straight face.
yeah, that's amazing.
Because of lockdown and lockdown things that we haven't been
Yeah.
able to, but I've gotten to know Amor for a while. But Amor, you've been creating content for a long time, but as far as Lego content, like where did that stem from?
Yeah, so I've been doing content for like almost 7 years on Twitch at this point. And it was very much traditional games and things like that. Nothing Lego related until corned beef 19 was a big reason for the Lego, honestly, because I was spending more time at home trying to figure out what to do with my time. And I think I stumbled upon some news about a Lego R2D2 set coming out. Like I was just on the internet and I saw that was like it was out, and I thought to myself, man, I haven't built Lego in a really long time. I had a very like in my childhood, kind of like Fred's story last episode was my parents were more willing to buy me Lego because it was something that seemed
Educational.
like it was like something, he could be creative with it, he could build things, maybe he'll be an engineer sort of thing. And so it was really easy to get Lego as a kid during like birthdays and Christmas and things like that. So thinking back to my childhood, I was like, oh, I love Lego. Yeah, I've never built anything as big as like an R2D2 and Star Wars fan. So I went to just order it. And I was like, great. Like this will be my first Lego set, like big Lego set that I'll get to build. And since in my adulthood, I've built like medium-sized sets, smaller sets here and there as gifts from my my wife's aunt, which is kind of a random thing, but she would include all these wonderful like gifts for the family, for the kiddos, like Lego and things like that. And she's like, oh, this one's for Amor. I didn't really know what to get, but he seems like he'd like Lego. So
you seem like a Lego fan. No,
Yeah.
you seem like a Lego fan. You seem like a nerd. No. So it's not like I wasn't building Lego, but the R2D2 came out, the more recent one. And so I was like, that would be cool to build a huge set. Yeah. So I ordered it, and I got the confirmation email, and it was like, hey, yeah, great, it'll get shipped to you. Oh, this is on back order. I was like,
I remember that.
No.
I remember that.
Yeah, it gave me an estimation of like 2 to 3 weeks, like before even thinking about shipping it. I was like, oh, well, I got really hyped for this in the moment that I ordered it. So then me going, well, fine, I'm going to see what else is on Lego.com. And so I started browsing, and I saw the Daily Bugle, which was like brand new at the time.
Man,
Yeah.
Amor goes for the big sets, man. You're
Yeah.
like, this
If I'm
guy's
gonna
Bigger
go,
games.
I'm gonna go
set.
big. And
Go big.
another story. I was a big Spider-Man fan. I
Mhm.
always have been since I was a kid. I collected the comics. Talking about collecting things, I collected a lot of Spider-Man comics and Spider-Man
Cool.
like action figures, things like that. I was like, oh, Daily Bugle, that's another huge set. I was like, what am I doing? Sure. And then I just clicked it. I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And then I
Committed.
got it like a week later, and here I am with this massive Lego box, and I'm like, I've never done anything this big before for
Yeah.
like Lego. It's like, what am I doing? And I had set it up in my office. Like I was opening it up. I went through all the bags, and my stream setup was there. And I'd been streaming for years, and at this point, I was getting. I was like trying to figure out what else I could do on stream. I was like, I'll just turn on the camera. I'm gonna point another webcam at the desk. It was a very like impulsive moment, much like ordering the R2D2 to begin with. I'm not ordinarily an impulsive guy, but I think corned beef 19 caused some choices.
A lot of
It'd
things.
be like that.
Yeah,
It'd be like that.
Everybody
you
was
start doing
off
things
their rocker.
randomly that you wouldn't ordinarily do. But I was like, I'm just gonna stream it, and I started building the Daily Bugle on stream, and it was my regular audience, which was mostly accustomed to me playing games, but they all thought it was cool. And
Yeah.
I was showing off all the minifigures, and that set has like a
A
billion
lot.
minifigures.
Fine. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I know
Mhm.
this character. And I was going through and I talk about every character. It's like, oh, I know this character. And then it was like a 4 or 5 hour stream. And my usual
Yeah.
streams were like 3 hours. So I was like, oh, this has
Yeah.
been really fun. And I was only through like part of like the first like 2 floors. I think I'd
Yeah.
finished the first floor and I was starting on the second floor of this massive set. And I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing this. And I did it like every day that week until I
Wow.
finished it.
Nice.
And then I was like, well, that's it for me. And I've ever since been just getting Lego, buying Lego, building it
Yeah.
on and off stream. And I actually, the first person I rated on Twitch, which for those that don't know what that means, it's like when you finish up your stream, you can bring everyone on it to another channel. First person I saw was AZ Pinoy, actually.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, this Filipino, this dude's building Lego. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And
No
he was
way.
kind of the person that I met who introduced me to Fred and
Nice.
Zach
Oh.
and all of the other people that I know now today in the Lego community on Twitch. And so that's ever since then, I've been building Lego on live streams, which is kind of the core of like my Lego content. 2 to 3 times a week, I sit down, I build a Lego set, and sometimes we'll look at Lego sets that are coming out on the stream and talk about it. But that's really where my content comes from and what my Lego story is. And it's certainly been a big part of my life in the last almost 3 years, just building a lot of Lego, talking about it with friends like Fred and AZ and now all of you. And so that's kind of the story of how I got back into Lego, and it just kind of piggybacked onto like the content creation thing kind of randomly. Like it was not my intent to like go out and start building Lego on stream. It just kind of all happened.
Very naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is most of your live streams now Lego, or is it pretty good
It's a
50-50 split?
It's a split. It's a split because I do gaming 2 nights a week. I do Lego technically 2 nights a week scheduled, but I always end up doing it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then I have Crossing the Streams, which is the live recording of the podcast. So it's kind of like it's a fairly even split between like Lego. It's like Lego's about 50% and then everything else makes up the other 50.
I never would have known that you didn't start with Lego stuff with streaming. That's so
really,
yeah. I never would have known. This is great.
You're a gamer.
Streams episode.
Yeah.
Reverse. But you're a gamer. That's your background.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Making
Yeah,
games.
I'm a gamer. I was playing video games since I was like 7, 8 years
Oh
old.
wow! What's
And
your
so-
favorite game of all time?
What's your favorite? What's your first? First and favorite.
Aren't they the
Okay,
same?
Not necessarily.
first I really got into was Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Ah.
that's a whole fun story I can tell another day, but that's a fun one. And then gosh, my favorite, it's so weird because I don't stream it at all, but I love
Oh.
Super Mario World.
Oh.
Like
But you
I
don't
I
stream
spent
it.
so many hours into that game growing up, and every couple of years I go back and I play it all the way through, and I'll play it all the way. Like now I played all the way through with my kiddos.
Yeah.
So I've probably beaten that game like a couple dozen times over
Oh,
the
wow.
years.
But-
Dang.
But by trade, you're a game designer,
Yes.
Right.
which is
Yes.
not the typical Filipino profession.
No.
I mean,
it's not a
it
nurse.
is.
No.
It's not a nurse.
Or mailman.
Oh man,
You want to be
my
mailman?
parents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd like to
the
know
engineer.
how does that equate to probably you being brought up? You have
Yeah.
siblings, right? But you're the youngest.
Yeah, I'm the youngest. I have 4 sisters,
Of course, that's
Mhm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
3 of
And
which
they-
have Maria as part of their name.
Yeah. We've already broken down all. If I'm Ma'an, I've already figured out all of his sisters.
Yeah, yeah.
nickname.
Wait,
And
wait,
I-
what? Yeah, what are they?
So there's in order Maria Teresa.
So guess what her nickname is?
Ma,
Mate.
Mate?
Mate.
Mate?
Mate.
Mates.
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 Yes.
Yes.
Mate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
See?
And then
Nice.
Milagros.
Wait, what
And
is
then
it?
like Milagros.
Milagros.
Yeah.
Maria Milagros.
Maria.
Maria Milagros.
No, just
Maria.
Milagros. She's the only
Oh.
non-Maria, which is
Oh.
always the funny thing.
Oh.
I was like, what?
Milagros
And-
is miracle.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yes, it means
Yep.
miracle.
She was
Oh.
Miracle.
Mila, so just Mila.
Oh.
Mila,
just call her
Mili.
Mila.
Mila. Mimi.
Yeah, she has a couple. When I grew up, I think I called her Millie,
Millie.
just because
Oh.
that was a fun
Yeah.
thing, and then it kind of stuck until I became an adult, and now it's just Mill, or
Mil.
Mila.
Right.
And then Maria Lourdes,
That was easy.
Malo.
Malu.
Malo.
Malo.
Malo,
Malo.
Hello.
Malo, or Mal, depending on who it is,
Wow.
Yeah.
and then Maria Faye,
Mafe.
Mafe.
Mafe,
Just
My
my favorite.
yeah, Mafe,
Mafe or
Yeah.
Mafe?
Sounds like
Ma-
buffet.
Mafe.
That's
I
why
said that. Yeah,
when Amor first heard my name, he knew right away
I was
what
like,
I
oh,
meant when it's
got
like
it.
I'm from Maria.
yeah. I
He
nodded
knew
when
right away.
you were like Ma'an. I was like, oh, okay. Got
What
it.
derivative are
Interesting.
you?
My
Ma'an.
name, and I'd actually never talked about this on stream. My name's Amor Solo.
Which is so cute. Isn't that beautiful?
Amor
guys?
solo.
Amor
Only
Solo.
love. Love
Only love, loved one.
Only love.
Right?
Oh.
So your sisters
so-
must hate you. What?
They-
They got
oh,
that
yeah,
boy?
dude.
They got that boy
Dude,
finally,
yeah,
boy.
and
we
we're
grew
just
up.
shipped
Yeah,
off to the nunnery.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, everyone
are you,
calls me Amor.
Amso? Or so?
No. It was no. That never happened. It was always Amor.
Amor.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, when Mom was pissed, it was
Amor
Solo.
Amor
Solo.
Yeah.
Solo.
Yeah, just like
Dang.
I
that.
feel
It's like
goosebumps
Han
for you
Solo.
already.
It's
I do.
don't, but don't get that confused with Amor. Sing, Amor. Sing a
Sing
song.
for them. Sing for your
Not
people.
solo. Not sing.
But yeah, so
Sing your solo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sing your
Yeah.
solo.
So, did any of your sisters succumb to the typical Filipino profession, or no?
How many nurses you got?
Man, that was interesting because
Oh.
that pressure was all around each of us, and actually, two of them became accountants.
Oh, okay.
They're all
Yeah,
like-
it's a Filipino thing too, I
It-
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up
Yeah.
there. It's part of
Yeah.
like two of them went
The
accounting.
tier list.
Yeah.
One did end up in medical, so
Okay.
she's not a doctor, but she's like
In healthcare.
in healthcare.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then the fourth one, she kind of did like the long term stay at home mom sort of thing.
Mm.
And now that
She
the
married
kids
rich.
are
Another
now
good
that
one.
now that she's now that the kids are grown up, she's just been doing like random things here and there.
Oh, okay.
Kind of trying to she works for fun, kind of, I guess. Like it's not like, I mean, that sounds weird, not to say that they don't need the money, but like her husband's in a career where she can like explore different
Right,
things, and
right,
she's
right,
never really, I think, settled on something
right, right.
even now. So
Yes, yes.
um I'm the weird one because I ended up in video game development.
But
And
see, I
so
find like there's so many creative minds within the Filipino community. Like
yeah,
even if a lot of us succumb to a more professional, maybe a more rigid professional expectation that our parents had. Like I have a huge art background growing up. Like I love
yeah,
art, right? And I just never went
Mhm.
into that. And not that my parents really said don't go into the art, but it was understood that art was going to make me poor. And
yeah,
yet when you know all the
Mm.
people now who are like who've
yeah,
really been nourished by the art world, right? Like as a mom now, I'm the one pushing my children to find your passion. So like my oldest, I think I've shared this before, he's in industrial design because he's a phenomenal artist. And I'm like, make it
Mm.
with something that you can create, right? Like something that
yeah.
will feed you. So, but I feel like there's a lot of really creative Filipinos out there. And, I'm glad you're able to follow your passion regardless.
Yeah.
And this is your life, right? That
Yeah.
you are enjoying your everyday that you're at work. Cause I think that's so
Oh yeah.
key, right?
I love what I do. My parents though to this day still don't understand exactly what I do, and they
Mhm.
also are not
But if your kids aren't going hungry, that's key.
right. And that's kind of been like the thing, right? Is that
Yeah.
they're kind of at the point where they still question it. They're like, is that really
A job. Do
is
you
that
not see like
really
all the
yeah,
huge corporations out there like
right.
Sega and Nintendo and like
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had to
it's
frame it like
ginormous.
that. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's a job like any other. It's just it's an industry now. But they
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
the longest time really fought it, and
Oh,
they
I
weren't
bet.
really
I bet.
sure if it would lead to any kind of long-term success. And
Yeah.
so
Mm.
even to this day, it's still one of the points of like, so how's your gaming job? And I'm like, well,
I
not
love it.
quite
Yeah.
not quite. I'm not playing them, but I was like, games are fine. Game like
Video
it's
gamer.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I think your geographic location too, because I know. I mean, for me, growing up in Southern California, there's a lot of Filipinos here. You know,
Mhm.
hmm
maybe for y'all in Toronto, there's a lot of there's a pretty healthy Filipino
Mhm.
community
Population. Yeah.
in
mm,
Yeah.
there.
Very
Now,
healthy.
growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I would imagine that there weren't like you didn't have another Filipino friend or a lot of Filipino friends to
no,
befriend there in the Pacific Northwest. How was trying to balance the Filipino culture
Yeah.
that you experienced from your parents to basically, I don't know, how was it? Like, I mean, sure, there was all
yeah,
probably Caucasian kids like all around that would
it
probably look at your
was.
lunch and be like,
Yeah, you
"What the
didn't
hell
bring
is
the rice
that?"
and adobo. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was very much the experience.
Mhm.
I was one of like two Asian kids in my like first grade class,
Hmm.
right?
Oh,
And there was no, and that was it. Everyone else was Caucasian. It was me, the Filipino kid, and the Chinese girl.
Hmm.
So we were friends.
oh,
Yeah.
We became friends because there was a little bit of understanding there, and it was like that for a couple of years growing up.
Yeah.
And then I think around fourth or fifth grade, a Filipino family moved into town,
Okay.
and they had a son named Chris who was my age, and that was like the coolest thing ever because our parents would hang out, we would hang out, and they were
yeah.
there for
Nice.
a couple years, but then they moved away, and then
Oh.
it was kind of back to like being like the only Filipino kid for
Mhm.
a couple years, and it wasn't until I hit like middle school more Filipino families showed up, but even then it
Okay.
was like
And this is like the 90s
this is
then?
this was the
Nice.
Oh,
90s. I
wow.
lived in a small town in Oregon, Astoria,
Astoria.
which
Okay.
is actually it was like a fishing and logging town forever. And
Amor from
then
Astoria.
I
It's
know,
so
right?
poetic.
And
I'm just gonna say this.
it's a picturesque little coastal town.
I want to put the word
And
betwixt somewhere.
bet-
Betwixt the sunset
and
Astoria lies
yeah,
more.
it was very hard growing up being like the only
Oh, yeah.
Filipino kid. My parents had friends in Portland. Who
Mm-hmm.
there were
Mm-hmm.
many Filipino families there actually.
Yes.
There was
How
quite
far
a
was the
strong
drive there?
about 2.5 hours. And
Okay. Okay.
so
Wow.
Okay. You would
we
go
would
back and
make
forth.
that trip once or twice, like a month, just to say
Yeah.
hi for like a day. My parents would try to line it up anytime big events would happen, like birthday parties or things like
Yeah.
that in the community, where everyone would get together and bring food and hang out.
Yes.
So that was my exposure to like the Filipino culture.
Yeah.
Really like growing up with my parents who immigrated uh in like the 80s and or late 70s, early 80s, had me a couple years later. I was born and raised here, being the only brown kid amongst a lot of white people, all throughout. And I stayed in Astoria up until I moved out for college, and so
Oh wow.
it was very like I was very whitewashed in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
no, for
Yeah.
sure.
And yeah, it
There were
was
no other like say Hispanics, Latin Americans, like really in terms of the
Hispanic,
dusky or
like
your color.
yeah, I
nothing?
was
Like
gonna say it was mostly white. We started to get like a Hispanic population in Astoria around the time in my late or like my mid to late teens,
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
and that was
Yeah.
new to me, and that was
Yeah.
cool. But it was really like I want to say a massive like it was all white people. It was all white
Right.
people.
But
So
see, it's
when I'd show up with my packed lunch in grade school, it was always like
yeah.
what's adobo, right? It'd be stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
people would be like kids would be eating their lunch bowls and I'd be hanging out
Yeah.
Was their
buying.
reaction good or gross?
It was mixed.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have to say though, growing up around the 80s, 90s, even here, if you don't have your salami sandwich or your, peanut butter, you're just an outer. It didn't matter what you brought. Everybody was too conformist into what was regular then.
Yeah.
But I feel like now my kids, right? Like all the kids in their classrooms too, they're so diverse. And they're all
Yeah.
born in Canada, but like there's more of a celebration of everybody's ethnicity. And not to say like my kids are Filipino, they only bring Filipino food, for example, but it's not unusual if they brought like lasagna in like a hot meal. Like I feel like once upon a time, even if I ever brought like a hot anything in a thermos, and even if it was the pasta, my friends would be like, that's not a sandwich, right? Like it's just like, oh, who cooked for
Yeah.
you? There's a bit more of that stigma around then. Just bring your
There
brown,
was.
unassuming paper bag, not
Yeah.
your gem and hologram, lunch bag. And just fill it up with an apple and a sandwich, and that's it. Don't
Yeah.
don't bring anything different. And I think that was maybe also a story we can like delve into one day, where you couldn't really be different, and we're so good at assimilating. And I
Yeah,
mean, in
I
your
struggled.
case,
I
was what you were
struggled.
born into, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and eventually at some point I was like, "Hey mom, can I just get sandwiches?" Like, I
Yeah.
wanted to I desperately wanted to fit in.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so
Yes.
like I wasn't embarrassed, but at the same time I was kind of like I wanted to be
Just-
accepted.
That's right.
So-
That's right. I think, and
Sometimes
every
we just want to
kid,
blend. We
right?
just want to blend in.
Just
I just
blend
wanted to
in.
blend in. And
Mind
so
you, my
I
dad will
blended
make me a
in.
spam sandwich. I'll be like, what is this? Mayo
I've
and
had
spam.
this.
And they'll cut it. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm eating a spam sandwich, and you try to eat it as fast as you can, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I tried to blend in. That was, and like I said, I personally wasn't embarrassed, but I think a lot of it was knowing that the
Mhm.
culture was so different that it was
Mm.
really hard to make friends. It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hard to be like the Asian kid, and then all the things that came with being like the kid that was clearly the different looking one. Like if you pulled up those pictures, those class pictures, right? You'd spot me in every picture.
Yeah.
There he is.
Like,
there
there
he
he is. There's the brown kid, right?
Yeah.
And it was always like that. So I grew up trying to blend in for a very long time, and admittedly not embracing as much of the Filipino background. Is like I look back, I'm like, kind of wish I did, kind of wish that
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
forget all that noise, right? Like forget all that
Right.
noise about fitting in. Be
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so
Be
hard,
you.
right? When you're a little kid, you don't have that BU yet, right? And you
Right.
don't have the words or the mindset to express it or to defend it. And at the heart of it is you were just that one, right?
Mhm.
So it's really that it is a survival bit where, okay, I just want to blend in. I
Yep.
just want to blend in and let me go through it. In hindsight, you're like, man, I wish I could have gone back and tell that grade one,
Yeah.
more, you are fantastic. You are perfect just how you are. And
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
them what brown is being about. But
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I would
Right?
if I could do that, I'd be like, dude, just
You do
be
you.
Filipino, be you.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
be. Who
And-
cares if you show up with lumpia?
Yeah.
You know, because lumpia's freaking
Mm.
awesome anyway.
Yeah.
How dare
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But it is tricky, right? We're all born and raised here in North America. We aren't really
Yeah.
just one or the other, right? Is always like something that I'm always
One foot in each culture,
personally
really.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so mindset wise, I'm very North American. You know, I go to the Philippines and I'm taken aback when I get people call me mom, sir, because to me, I'm like, don't call me that. Like it's all we're all equal people, right? Like I just want to
Yeah.
see the watch in the window. I'm not going to steal it or anything, but you get that, you know, next level of social, what is that, right? Hierarchy, like they know
Sure.
you're a customer, they serve you. Here you go to anything, you go to Sears, you go to Target, no one's going to give you that extra level. Everybody's pleasant, right? Customer service here is always with a smile, but you don't get that differential, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, right? But
Yeah.
all of us here in North America, we're not just Filipino. But when you're being seen, of course, when you walk down the street, that's what you are seeing.
Yeah.
You're not that white person, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
it's still key. But then,
Like even if you're white, you might be European, you might be Australian, you might be like
Yes.
what other country? But if you're
Yeah.
brown, you like
you stand out.
you stand out
right?
more.
You stand out.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you could be British, you could be
Polish,
American, you
be
could have
anything.
I don't know,
A
Texas
new-
accent
yeah,
or
yeah.
Yeah.
But then-
But
definitely.
they just see that, right?
Now, Rob, you, from my understanding, you grew up in Michigan.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been to Michigan recently, and I stuck out like a sore thumb.
Mm.
Being
Yeah.
brown.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
At
that.
least in the parts of Michigan that I
You
was
went
in.
to, yeah.
But yeah, where were
Buchanan.
you?
I was in Buchanan, like near Buchanan, Michigan.
I don't know where
How
that
far
is.
is that from Detroit? Is that far
So
from
like
Detroit?
south of Detroit, closer
south.
to the
East.
closer to the Illinois
Illinois,
closer to the
Illinois.
Illinois border.
To the west side.
But
Okay.
anyway, regardless of where I was,
Yeah.
I was segueing into, did you have a similar experience growing up? And also you're younger, you're a decent amount younger than us too. So maybe you even had a different experience just
Yeah.
with your age growing
Yeah.
up in
He
Michigan,
brought
but
a hot
also
lunch. I can tell he
I-
brought a hot lunch.
No,
and
so
everybody
it's-
was okay with his pasta.
So it's interesting. It's interesting because I think that I had more of an experience like Ma'an and Nick, like your kids are probably having now.
Mhm.
But I was thinking about it, and I've never thought about it until right now. But I went to like a private school where we all had like uniforms. They
Yeah.
would like
Okay.
provide the lunch.
Yeah.
Oh.
You wouldn't
Yes.
bring a lunch.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because in a way, I think it was easier for me to like fit in, quote unquote, because you're all wearing the same thing.
Yes.
You know, you're
The
all
power of
eating
the
the same
uniform.
thing.
The baseline
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
across the
comparison.
board.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and like for me as a second grader, third grader, the big thing was like, are you good at sports? And if you're good at sports, like that's how you
You're
can.
in.
That's one way you can
That's
fit
your
in.
currency.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, because you'd all go out and you play soccer at recess or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to say that I was aware that I was the only Filipino kid, and more like you said, there was one Chinese girl, there was one Japanese boy in my grade. You know,
Yeah.
so we would hang out and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
I also had other friends, I guess. So I don't know. It's very interesting. I remember like when I would show my friends like lumpia, for example, or even just like having rice, that was something that was new to them and kind of exciting. My older brother's friend, when he was in like 5th grade or 6th grade, he would like stay over for dinner sometimes, and we would have, like salmon with rice or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he had never had rice before. So this was like a big thing for him, and he like loved the rice to the point where for his birthday he asked for a rice maker. Like that was
A rice
was
cooker.
maker.
A rice cooker.
Rice
Yeah, rice cooker. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So
But did they teach them how to properly
measure the water, you know, with the
yes.
finger.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh,
Yeah,
this
that's
way.
right. Oh, you use your.
This way
I
or
use
this way?
mine. I use
That line. Well, I guess I use my
I use my index.
We're all using
Index.
different fingers here.
I'm
Yeah.
using my index finger.
My index
Index.
finger too.
I don't even know if it's my
Yeah.
pinky or index
But
anymore.
it's interesting you bring up rice because the Filipino rice, it's a very Asian rice, which is different from
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Uncle Ben
Yeah.
is very buhaghag, like it's spread, like it's loose rice.
Mhm.
Versus
Right.
the Asian rice is
soggy rice.
not quite
Sticky.
as sticky as
It's sticky.
Japanese rice, but
Right.
it's there, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not quite basmati, but it's a delicious. Like it just makes me salivate right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
I just want some toyo and rice right now. You have no idea.
So, but yeah, I was like aware that I was the only Filipino kid, but I guess it wasn't as big of a deal, and for me at least, I felt like I didn't really stand out that much because I wasn't eating
Yeah.
different things, I wasn't wearing different things, so
Yeah.
Mm.
And like I guess your
Yeah.
siblings were also in the same school. So
yeah.
ultimately you had a
I'm trying to remember, like first grade, I went to public school, but
Mhm.
we lived like a block away from the school. So if I remember correctly, I would actually go home for
lunch.
Also,
Yeah.
home for lunch. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Him too.
Yeah.
He was right across school.
Yeah. So I
across the
would just walk home and then go back.
And nobody saw what you ate because it was
Yeah.
home.
It was at
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
It was at home.
And so having parents that were born here then, I mean, because I
Mhm.
know for most of us, our
Yeah.
parents were born in the Philippines,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
a majority of our exposure to the Filipino culture was to our parents. Would you say you got that more from your grandparents? Did you still experience it from your parents? Like, it's kind of interesting to me to kind of, I guess, get a different generation's kind of
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. So when my grandparents came over from the Philippines, they obviously didn't have, like, I think maybe I've talked about this on episode 1, or maybe it was with Amor, but they didn't have family in
Mhm.
Michigan, so they had kind of their adopted
Mhm.
family.
Yes.
That
Other
they
Filipino
met through.
families.
Exactly, and they would celebrate Christmas together. They would celebrate Easter. They would celebrate birthdays all together. And it was funny, like growing up. I remember thinking, oh, I wish that we had that more with other Filipino families. But
Mm.
as I grew up, I realized they only had that because they didn't have their actual family
Mhm,
here
mhm,
in the
mhm,
US.
mhm.
Yeah.
But so we're still close with those families that they would.
The founding families.
Yeah, the founding families, exactly. And the kids that are my parents' age, they've for the most part all moved away. There's probably like
Okay.
4 or 5 that are still in Michigan.
Okay.
So we see them every once in a while. But yeah, for me, it was definitely more through my grandparents. Growing up, we would, like, every Tuesday we would go over to my grandparents' house and have dinner as like a big family.
Yeah.
And it was always like the adobo or the
Mm.
afritada, not
Yeah.
afritada, afritada. And
And it was your grandmother who loved to cook, like all
yeah,
the
yeah.
family loved to cook.
yeah, grandma was the cook in the family. And my mom's mom was not Filipino, which is one of the reasons that
okay.
I will say grandma instead of Lola,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
it was still like Grandma Barb. And then my dad's mom, who is Filipino, she didn't want to be called grandma. She didn't want to be called Lola
Of
or
course,
anything like
no
that.
Lola for me.
Like, I actually called her today. It's her 90th birthday next
Oh,
week.
wow.
And,
so
okay.
awesome.
So I'm going up to Detroit to celebrate, and
Yeah.
I said, so I call her Mimi. So Mimi, I heard you're turning 60 years old, because she's telling everyone in the family that the 9 did a flip.
Yeah.
She's turning 60. You know? So
So
like she
cute.
didn't want to be called grandma. She doesn't want to be 90 years old. She's 60. So it was
She's
Mimi.
still Mimi.
And
Very
yeah.
stylish.
yeah. So, but yeah.
That's so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, so you reside in Texas.
In Texas.
Texas. What is the extent of your now experience with the Filipino culture? Is it
Yeah,
really
Filipino
just
community should be big
yeah?
there,
Is there
no?
is there a Filipino community there, or is it just the interaction you get with us on Twitch where we call each other Leche Fam?
Yeah, that's like
Or
as of right
Yeah.
now, at least. That's the majority of it.
Oh.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
but one thing, like for me growing up, we would always have rice with dinner, like whatever we were
Mhm.
having. So like mom's mom, she would make like
Mhm.
meatloaf, you know,
Mm.
but because of like my dad and the Filipino culture, we would also have
She
like
makes
rice.
rice.
So we would have
Yes.
like
Rice.
meatloaf and rice.
That's your ulam.
And
Yeah.
so like here in Texas, whenever I'm making dinner, I always have it with rice.
You have
which
your
is-
own rice cooker.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You have
Yes.
you have the big one or just the tin one or the big party size?
No, just this. I don't. It's just me, hanging out in Texas. I don't need to. I don't need to cook for
Yeah.
everyone. All my
that's
neighbors.
so funny. I can think of I
So-
can picture like a huge like Texas roast barbecue, and then I think of like
Some rice.
little
Yeah.
little things.
Yeah.
Little rice.
Like
Some
what?
rice.
What?
Go away.
Just rice.
It's just my
Well, in the
rice.
Philippines,
It's like
at restaurants, they
now I'm
always serve.
experiencing.
they
Now
serve
I'm
the-
experiencing the divide. People are like, "What is that?" Oh.
Right?
It's traumatizing me in my mid-20s. What were you gonna say,
Is that-
Nick?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like in the Philippines, when you're at restaurants, they always serve the rice like
In a bowl
In a
and then
bowl,
they flip it
it's
so it's like
upside
a
down.
beautiful dome
Mm.
shape.
it looks like a
And
dome.
it's just presentation, right? And then you almost
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
break it apart because it's so pretty. I
That's
guess
true.
I could do that at home too. That's an
For
interesting
real.
question. You just asked, Fred, because it's a legit question. Where how is the Filipino community in Houston? And I don't doubt that there is.
Austin.
Austin, and I don't doubt there
Austin, yeah.
is one.
Yeah,
But again,
sure.
given I just went to Jollibee, right? It's a ton of
Mhm.
Filipino in Jollibee, and it's like right by the Seafood City, which is also a Filipino grocery store there. But I feel like in terms of me connecting with another Filipino, it's really that connection that they would also have grown up here and have experienced these feelings and the
Yeah.
life moments and motions that I went through, and not necessarily somebody who just came from the Philippines like in the last couple of years. I could
Mhm.
appreciate their stories, if I had met a newcomer and they would have told me, oh, it took them so long to migrate or
But they have different
however.
experiences.
But
than
it's a
you.
totally different life experience than say like meeting you guys who are into
Mhm.
Lego, into streaming, and then part of this North American Filipino community. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to like learn more deeply about the Filipino culture and sort of like through our memories and sort of what triggers us. Like, oh, that makes sense now that my mom said slow put, right? But
Right.
it's as much as I'm in the lineup, I whisper to my kids, this is the cheapest I can bring you to Manila right now. We're just in Jollibee, okay? Soak it all up in, kids.
But you haven't been there for too long yet, Rob. So have you
No.
explored any of the Filipino culture? Have you gone
I
to a
really
local
haven't.
like restaurant or anything?
No,
Or have
there
you looked
and there are a
looked for it?
couple. There's
Oh, there
there's
are,
a
okay.
couple. I'm in like just south of the city, and they're more north.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the next time we record, because I was saying I gotta up my, or I guess we have to up our
Yes.
Filipino food game. I might have to go make a pit stop
Yeah,
before,
for sure.
before we record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could tell us about your
But
first
you have-
experience at this place.
Yeah. Exactly. But you have that want, right? You have like the kind of like a nod to your relatives, like or even a nod just to your heritage. Like
Yeah.
I know if I were ever to move, I would
Yeah.
probably, that'd be probably one of the first kind of cuisines that I would go seek out is like,
Yeah.
all right, if there's like a local like Filipino joint where I can get my
Yeah.
lumpia fix or something, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
you're
it-
lucky, or like so in California, right? Like they have a ton.
Right.
I can
There's a lot.
imagine there.
There's a lot. Yeah.
My mom texted we have like a big family group chat with
Mhm.
all the aunts
Cousins
and uncles and cousins and stuff,
Yeah, so fun.
and so we're planning like who's gonna bring food, and it's like all Filipino stuff for my grandma's birthday.
Yes.
Adobo, the lumpia, halo halo ingredients.
Yeah.
Kare
Ulam
kare.
stick,
Got
Is
it,
meat
got
on a
it.
stick? Is that a Filipino
Yeah,
thing?
barbecue stick.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Okay.
Filipino,
It totally is. It's like a street food.
but I thought any
Mhm.
culture would have
But I
that.
guess it depends on your the sauce,
Your-
and the sauce
Your
has either
preparation.
Coke or Sprite or some sort of
Sauce.
Yeah.
orange.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
There's always some sort of pop in that sauce, and then they mix it with soy sauce and
I didn't know
vinegar
they
and
put
salt.
pop in there.
Oh, there's
So
pop.
good. I can't
There's
wait.
pop.
I'm so excited.
Sprite is my
Sprite.
family's.
That's right. Sprite is for
Sprite.
families. I think I've had another family friend and they use Orange Crush.
Okay.
And that's what
Mm.
makes it caramelized, right? Like when it
Oh.
burns, it's all sugary. But they're not
Oh.
putting honey. They're not putting molasses.
That's why it's sugary.
It's sugar.
Yeah.
And they have it like marinating in that thing for 24 hours.
24
It's
hours.
just all steeped
Yeah.
in that, deliciousness, savory and sweet. It's always a good combination. Chemical.
Yeah.
So
very
so going
excited.
back to you then, Amor, you have kids. Your wife is not Filipino.
Right.
What this kind of a matter of fact for you guys out there. But how then have you integrated, or if you have integrated Filipino culture, or what have you instilled to your kids? Like, do they eat rice all the time, or have they eaten Filipino
Yeah.
food? Do you have a Last Supper hanging in your kitchen?
No, we don't.
We don't. Well, I'll
You
start with that
don't.
question.
I
I don't
know you
have
don't.
it, but I
know
grew
you
up
don't. I
with
just
that.
threw that in
I'm
there.
gonna
I
tell
just-
you.
Mom has
I'll
something.
tell you no. I'll tell you.
I
I
just threw
grew
that
up
in
with
there for a
that.
joke.
We had
Oh,
the Last Supper, like in my parents' kitchen for like
Amazing.
as long as I could remember. So with my kiddos, we do eat a lot of rice with
Okay.
what we eat. It's not
Amor
every
showed
day.
you his index finger. He knows how to measure that water.
You know
Yeah.
that.
So your
no.
wife likes rice. Your wife likes rice.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I've converted her to like the idea of a lot of Filipino foods, because when we were dating, I would still bring her to my parents. There was that period of time where again, like I mentioned earlier, like the relationship with the parents was always kind of tenuous, but I would bring my now wife, then girlfriend, over, and so because she had to pass the test of like all four sisters signing off on her, right?
Mm.
Which
Yeah,
she
that's
She had
did.
not.
Brother.
Yeah, good for
So
her.
yeah, that says a lot about her. But
Yeah.
so she's into the food. She loves the food. She's learned how to cook like adobo and things like that.
Oh my
so
god!
she
Nice.
she
I don't
knows
even know how to
like
make adobo.
Love that.
she's done that. She's attempted lumpia. She's done
Okay.
she's done various dishes that like, because she likes to cook, so she'll just like try something. She's like, I know it's not like your mom's. Like she always she's like, this is a recipe that
I
I
know.
found,
Aw.
but
Online.
To
because
be
she's
fair,
I think
there
she's
are
heard
no true recipes of mothers. Like mothers who
Exactly.
are Filipino, they're like a little bit of
It's
this,
true.
a little bit of that,
I
some
know.
witchcraft,
They
and
can't
then you have
explain it.
it.
Yeah.
But
Witchcraft.
when I
That's
follow,
what it is.
a recipe online, it doesn't
Oh,
taste
yeah.
like my mother's, and she's like, "Oh, it's missing something." I'm like, "What is it?" She's
Yeah.
like, and then it's really
Yeah.
like the cooking is very organic.
It's very, my mom is
Like-
not is the cook
It's-
in the family. My mom
yes.
is she
My mom
for
too.
many
Yeah.
many years had zero measurements, and my
Yeah.
oldest
Yeah.
sister
Zero
has taken it
measurements, like-
upon herself to try to like translate that into measurements
Yes.
to some degree. But
right.
my wife
That's
has learned some dishes. We don't do that all the time, but every so often it'll be like, oh, there's something that's made. We eat rice somewhat regularly, it's present. And I talk about the different things that I know growing up to my kids, but it's very like secondhand-ish, right? So it's
Yeah.
like they kind of get a very
absolutely.
watered down version of what even I grew up
Yeah.
with, which was also already kind of
Watered
watered down
down.
because
Mhm.
so I'm not afraid of talking about it to my kiddos. They're exposed to it. And then they're, when they were younger, we brought them by my parents more often. So the older two have a lot of those memories. They have a lot of that exposure. They have the kind of the base like experiences of like, oh, when we'd go visit, my parents are now in Portland, actually, talking about
Oh,
having to go
yeah,
to
yeah.
Portland. My parents transplanted there to be closer to some of those friends.
Okay.
nice.
Mm.
Yeah, when we'd visit, my older kids remember those experiences
Mhm,
of
mhm.
like
Okay.
just listening to like listening to my parents talk about their stories to them, even though they were fairly young. Being exposed to all the food and the just
Mhm.
the conversations that happened with the big Filipino family. But
Yes.
on the day to day, it doesn't come up a lot. It doesn't come up
Mhm.
as often as I would, have liked it to. But
Yeah.
I
But it's so
expose them
hard,
when I can.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you brought the kids or even your wife to the Philippines? Has there been a trip?
No.
Do you plan to ever?
Just go
I
to the
think when they're
resorts.
older, I mean, they're all. I mean, our youngest, he's like he's still small, so it's kind of one of those
Mm.
where
One of
I would love.
our family trip to the Philippines. Our middle kid now, but he was 4 months old, so he was like in
Wow.
that bassinet in the
In
front.
the
Wow. Oh my
yeah.
But for
gosh.
some reason, he was quiet. He slept the whole
Yeah, he
way.
was
It
a
was
good
our
baby.
older one who was like running around and wanting to sit on different people's laps and
Mm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like 4 months old when we brought him.
Wow.
And then I took
Wow.
those
No,
two
I'd
guys.
rather just have them be older.
Yeah, I know. No,
Yeah.
I,
A little
I
older.
agree with that because the next time I took them, and it was just me and my mom, was just those two too. So my third guy hasn't been to the Philippines, and he's like, "I wish we can go to the Philippines." And it's so ironic, right? Because you're just like, "Oh
Mm.
my god, I think it's such a long flight. It's expensive.
It's a whole
It's
thing.
I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of time when I can go, and you would like to invest a lot of time because you're spending an arm and a leg just for flight alone. That for
Mm.
him to ask that, the irony of irony is like, dude, we're like a 3 hour flight to Disney World. We go there all the time, and you want to go to the
Mhm.
Philippines? But like,
Yeah.
again, he's potentially looking for what the brothers had experienced, and B, he's like, well, I'm Filipino. I should see the Philippines, right? So, like I
Yeah.
said, when I bring him to Jollibee, I'm like, this is it. This is
My kids have
practice for you
asked.
all.
They've
How about
asked.
They do,
Kuya
They've asked
Rob
right?
about going.
and Tito Fred? Have you guys been to the Philippines, either of you?
Yes.
Fred?
Twice.
Yeah, that's same with me. Twice.
What?
Two times.
When? Like, how old were you guys? Young or adults?
Were you
Already?
pogi na pogi? Those
No.
like
Could you be
teenage years.
independent, or were you guys just stuck having to go where everyone
No.
goes, kind of thing?
For me, I was in 6th grade, and then I was a freshman in high school.
So young.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
still
like
couldn't.
I went.
Well, freshmen can go with
14?
cousins.
14, 15.
14. Yeah.
I was 18. I had just graduated high school on my first trip, and that was like
Okay.
one of those proper 3-week,
Mm.
long excursions where I went
Oh, that's
everywhere.
good.
I went. It
Yeah.
was my mom's
the cousins.
province.
Yeah.
You went with the cousins.
No,
They took you out.
not really. I mean,
Oh.
my cousins took me out in when I went to different places, but I went to my mom's province in south of Manila, on Luzon still, and then
Batangas?
we went to then we went north to Ilocos, San Fernando, where my
wow.
dad's from. And on the way there, we went to Baguio, and then towards the end of the trip, like we were down south as far as Bohol, and went to Cebu. And when I
You
was in
have been
Cebu,
everywhere.
Wow, look at you.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
yeah.
great.
So in that 3 weeks, it was
Yeah.
that, and then the second trip was a very quick like week trip. It was
1 week is
to
not
say
enough.
goodbye to my Lolo.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was like a really, really quick thing. So I was back in Lucena, my mom's province. It just popped in my head right now. Back in Lucena to be with my cousins and say goodbye to my Lolo, and then be there for the funeral and dip. So those are the only 2 trips that I've ever taken.
I would love
so.
to go back to the Philippines and be free, right? Like be able to travel
be
and
independent.
go around as
Not
much
be
as I
forced to
can.
go.
And this is it. Like
different places.
I don't have a lot of immediate family in the Philippines. Each of my parent has a sibling, and everybody
Okay.
else is all over the world. But you go there, and I don't know. Like my mom is so close to a lot of her cousins. So even beyond the immediate family, she has such close ties to her extensive compounded families that it's like going home to the Philippines with my mom is like every day, every meal of every day is already jam packed with a visit to somebody's house or somebody's tita and somebody's ninang and
Mhm.
somebody's lola and so forth. And it's bless, 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 bless. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm so full, guys, you know? And I mean, you know, part of that Filipino culture is you do your due diligence too, you do your respect and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But
Mhm.
have I been able to wander around the Philippines, look at the beautiful nature that Philippines has to offer? Not yet.
So we always say that
Mhm.
the next time we go, we're just gonna go to Boracay for like a couple of weeks and
Or
then
however
tell
we're
people,
doing.
Mm.
Yes.
oh, we're here now. Like after
Yeah.
kind of just
Maybe a
hanging
week
After
or
out.
having been
two,
there.
right?
Oh.
Yes.
So they don't pull
And
you every which way, you know, when
yeah.
once
And
you
you know,
arrive.
and on one hand, I don't mind that either because I don't know how else to meet who I'm related to, right?
Sure,
And
that's
so it's
fair.
an eye opener to, oh, you know, it's
And it's a
nice.
lot cheaper too because when they take you to a restaurant, it's free. They take you here, it's
Yeah,
free.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
free.
But my last trip was also for my Lola's. She had a 90th birthday, but this was 10 years ago already. She had since passed, and so
Mm.
I only had the two young kids. And we my parents no longer have their house there, but we generally stay in like a Makati area, right in Manila.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And one of my mom's closest friends, she's actually a resident dentist in one of the swankier hotels there. So we stay at the Shangri-La and hang out and just stay there.
Mm.
And you know, my
Damn,
mom is still full
that's a
of
really swanky place.
memories.
The
My
Shangri-La.
mom is full of memories of being fearful walking around the city,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And she's like,
Mm.
"Oh man, like you have to be so careful. You have the two
Watch the
boys. You can't
pickpockets.
you can't lose them. You can't, you know, watch your
Yeah.
purse. Blah 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 blah." But honestly, when I'm walking in Makati, and even 10 years ago, it already felt very modern to me. I
Oh.
felt kind of free to walk around. But mind you, I was the only one I felt walking in the heat with two little boys. Everybody else was in their air conditioned vehicle watching me. Why the heck is that woman in the sidewalk? And
Mhm.
Mm.
everything is close, right? Like the hotel is close to the mall, which was close to a museum. My mom's like, "Why are you going to a museum?" I'm like, "But there's a museum here in Manila." Nobody was in the museum. It was me
Wow.
and the two boys in this
You're giving them
museum.
business now.
And you know, but that also shows like what's the interest in culture for the Filipino people, right? You're
Mm.
not going to go to the museum, but the malls are full.
They're gonna watch basketball.
But
Yeah.
I treated
Basketball,
Manila, my
yeah.
visit, yeah, I treated my visit then very much like I'm walking in any North American
Yeah.
city. It was cosmopolitan enough to me at that point. And then of course we would also travel to visit some of my mom's province, which was Mindoro. It's an island down south. But you know, I want to be able to walk a lot more freely like that. I just don't know how to drive in Manila because it's nuts.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
even
I
like my
wouldn't.
mindset right now, if I were to like
You
go
would-
to the
wouldn't.
airport,
Oh.
I don't even know how to like tell anyone I want to go here. You know,
I
like
wonder if they have
is there
Ubers now.
I'm
Do they,
probably they will
do they
have
have Ubers in
Uber,
the Philippines?
but then
They
That's a good
probably
question.
have to.
They'd
they
have
I don't
would,
know,
or at least a
maybe.
I would
cab, or I'm
assume.
sure you could probably order some
Like
sort of
Ubers are gonna
transport.
put the jeepneys out of business and the tricycles out of business.
I guess it depends
Well,
who can
that's-
afford it.
jeepneys.
It's still affordability, right? Like not everybody can
That's
afford an
true.
Uber,
Yeah.
And the
right? The
jeepneys
jeepney,
and there's
it's like help
and the tricycles are still probably out more in
the
the
suburbs and everything for
provinces.
sure,
Yeah.
Mm.
for
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
As opposed
Yes.
to in especially there in Metro Manila, like it's more than likely that those jeepneys and tricycles are
Yes,
out of
exactly.
business.
Exactly. No, for
Um,
sure in the provinces it would be tricycles and stuff. But even then, my mom is like hesitant for me to like use public transport, right? If anything,
oh,
like
dude, tricycles are gnarly, dude. I've been on one and I
yes.
was just like,
Oh no.
dang,
And
I
this is
know.
crazy.
and this is it when like my cousins and I like have a reunion. Of course, they're also from Australia or whatnot, so they also can't speak Tagalog, right? I'm the one who like
Yeah.
I'm the one who translates for everybody, really. And my translation, when push comes to shove, it's a little bit dodgy too. But we'll be like, yeah,
Mm.
let's try the tricycle secretly. Don't tell any of the
Don't
adults.
tell
And
the
we're like,
parents.
I think we're adults now, guys. Let's go, right?
I know.
So,
I
Don't
know.
tell,
but it
don't
would
tell
be,
the adults.
you know, I would love to see the Philippines soon too again. And you're right. I think Amor, I agree with you. I want my kids to be a bit older just to appreciate it all as well and
Yeah.
take it in.
I
Like
want
my
them to be
kids,
able to like
you
take it
know,
in and
yeah,
remember
they
it
don't
and
remember.
experience it.
Yeah, I've been to the Philippines a bunch of times. Like my first time I was 6, and then I think 6, 8, 11, 16, 21,
Dang.
and then as an adult. That last time was like
Mhm.
2009. But like I remember the maybe 11 when I was the older years, I would always bring a basketball to the Philippines, and then we'd play like with the local kids. and then I would just always just leave it
Universal
it for
Filipino
them,
sport.
and then to be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we get to keep it.
Yeah.
And then because it was like it's a lot cheaper here just to get a basketball, but then I guess there it's a lot more expensive. But those guys just played like in their flip flops, and I'd have my
Chanelas.
basketball shoes on.
They
Their
play
chanelas.
it
They're so
barefoot.
good.
They're like looking at me
Yeah.
like, why are you wearing basketball shoes? I'm like, I don't know, so I don't turn an ankle or something. So
Yeah.
I had my basketball shoes on. But yeah, it was just the local kids. Like I would just go and just see kids playing, and then I'd have my basketball there. Like, oh, did you want to play with us? I'm like, yeah. So, and then we just play.
And they're good too.
Yes.
Like I remember playing in Manila when I think it was when I was in 6th grade. And me and my little brother did like a 2v2 against two other kids. And I think we lost. I think
Didn't
we
go
lost.
well, did it?
But we lost.
They're like,
but,
go home.
Yeah, they were just, you know, in their bare
Element.
feet. Yeah.
They're not tall, but they're pretty.
Well, it's the national
crafty.
sport of the country is basketball, which is so
Right.
funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
It sounds like Amor, like you wish you could pass down more of your heritage and
Yeah,
to your kids, right? Like
I do.
I mean, at least that's what I sense from you. Like,
Yeah.
what are some things that you wished you I mean, maybe even speak the language. I know if it were me, we're relatively around the same age. I don't have a wife and kids, but if there was something that I'd feel kind of regrettable about is that I don't know Tagalog. At least
Yeah.
I know Tagalog to understand it, but I don't know Tagalog to speak it. So if I
Same.
had kids, I would not be able to
Yeah.
teach them that.
It's the same for me in that I can pick out enough to understand what's being said,
Mm.
but I'll never be able to respond. Like my parents told me that I used to when I was much younger and before like that age where you're talking and before you go to school that I was speaking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
And
had an
I've
accent.
and I've lost all of that. But like they would be like, I'd come in and I'd just speak it to them in the morning and say hello, and then
Wow.
they would be like, okay, well, you're going to school soon, so
Yeah.
English, right?
We gotta
And
teach you
so-
English.
Yeah,
I have a comment about that. Sorry, my kids. So my mom has always been supported us in terms of like her being our third spouse. When Nick and I were so busy, like professionally, earlier days, and our kids were babies. You know, my mom was the one who'd be there for pickups or some drop-offs. But when she picks them up from school, she brings them to her house already, where they basically have all of their, you know, a whole set of clothes, and she feeds them and all that stuff. So when we pick them up, it's already like bedtime, right? So I huge kudos to my mom personally for always to do that. But she speaks with an accent. So it's funny because I feel like when my kids started kindergarten or whatever,
They had
even
accents.
preschool, they had
yeah.
a slight tinge of they speak English, but a slight tinge of an accent
Oh
where
yeah.
you're like, where were you
Ooh.
from, kid?
Yeah.
From Mississauga, like from
Yeah.
Toronto, like,
Yeah.
From Toronto?
from Toronto. But you know, it
That's so
disappears
interesting.
quickly enough, right? As
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
stay in school.
Yeah, it did. I mean, for me, it disappeared, and you know, pretty much since then, I've lost a lot of what I even knew. I can pick out enough, you know, when I would hang out with my parents because they would speak to me in Tagalog. I would respond in English. I'd get enough,
Mhm.
and every so often I'd be like, "What does that word mean?" Or like it would take me
Yeah.
a second to get like the context of what they were asking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to. It's definitely tough, right? Because like I don't know enough to teach my kiddos. Like it's that is definitely one of the things where it's like, should I just immerse myself, you know, and learn what I
Well,
can
this
and
is it.
pass it on to them?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
it's
Do you
tough.
say like small? So like I don't speak Tagalog or understand it, but like my uncle, when we would be at their house, it'd be like kaina, you know. So like there are like little
Kaina.
words
Little-
that I know simply because they were like, this means this, and they would
Mhm.
just say
Yeah.
it. Is there stuff like
Kaina.
that with your kids or no?
Not really.
No.
Not
Okay.
a,
Not
not
really
a,
either.
not a whole lot of that at all. Honestly.
Wow.
There
Yeah.
was something when I started dating Ate Maan, I don't know if you have this in your household, but I'd walk in, her family would be eating,
Always.
and then they'd say "ikot, ikot," and then they'd start turning their plate.
But that's if you leave.
Oh,
So
well, okay. You can
superstition. We need to
explain
cover
this.
superstition one
Superstition.
day.
Do you know? Have you heard of
What?
this? Have you heard of this?
Superstition?
We
I've
gotta
heard
have
someone
this
tell me
so-
about this. My family
so
never did this, but I've heard it referenced
before
before.
anybody leaves a house, if you're on your way out, but everybody's kind of still having a meal or eating, or anybody eating, even a snack, you need to turn your plate. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter which way.
Counterclockwise.
Counter doesn't matter as long as you eat.
I've heard
even,
this.
even when you do a little bit of a twist, so that the person who's leaving won't get into an accident or have any injuries or anything like that. It's like a safety superstition.
And ikot means
Ikot means to turn.
to turn.
Ikot, ikot. But that's on your way out.
So I always thought that meant bye. So they'd be like, ikot, ikot. I'm like, ikot,
Ikot,
ikot.
Oh my
that's so
God.
funny.
I didn't know they were like blessing me.
Yeah,
or
they're
whatever.
blessed. They're making sure you don't
Wow.
fall
My
Wow.
family never
Never-
did that, but I've heard someone describe that
Oh,
to
yeah.
me.
Huh.
Should we go closer to Halloween? We need to like have a whole Filipino
Okay, talk about-
Superstition. We should
superstition,
totally
right?
do that.
Filipinos are so superstitious.
Right?
Aswang?
And then you
Yes.
Talk about
guys,
aswang.
and so
Yes.
spoiler, I was always so intrigued because Nick's dad is from that area that's
Capiz.
super haunted in the Philippines. So I was so stoked when we went to the Philippines to visit like this place of all places.
Capiz.
And I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to like see like discombobulated being.
That's so interesting.
But yeah, so
Dang.
How do you spell
I've
it?
never heard that.
ikot or
Yeah.
Ikot
or aswang?
IKOT. Ikot.
Ikot, ikot.
But
I'm
it's
gonna
true,
Google it.
like in terms of language, right? And just fluency, like you really have to immerse it. Like when my
Yeah.
mom's like, oh, it's too bad your kids don't speak Tagalog. I mean,
Mhm.
we speak a mix of Taglish more often than not. And if anything, I tell her, right at this point, Tagalog is your and my secret language. If I want to talk about my kid in front of my
Yeah.
kid, but they don't know that I'm talking about my kid to you, then it's the
Yeah.
perfect.
That's why I don't know Tagalog.
Yeah, so
That
I
was
always
my
tell her,
secret.
let's talk about my husband right beside me right now. No, I don't.
My parents had their secret
Oh
language.
man.
Yeah, it's a secret
That's
language.
so
but
funny.
it's hard to learn a language when you really can't, have it
Yeah.
in your life, right? It's
Yeah.
difficult.
Like
already.
I have to make that effort if I want
Yes.
to even
Yes.
learn
Right.
it, right? Like it's
Yes.
not something that I'll be exposed to unless I make a point to
no.
do it.
Like in the U.S.
True.
curriculum, like what's your second language? For us, it's French. Do you guys have
Spanish,
to do
right?
Spanish still?
Spanish.
Spanish,
Spanish
still,
is a
right?
big
So
one.
Yep.
I want to say I'm pretty good at like written and reading French, but I
Ooh.
can't say it. Like I can say it, but I'm so rusty. Like it's been so
You
long.
took it all the way till grade
I
12.
took it all
right?
the way all through high school, conversant enough then. But then if you don't use it over
Yeah.
the last 20 years, it's like somebody asked me a question, boom, my brain knows how to answer. I can even see how I spell all the words out, but then there's a hesitancy to how that should flow out. And so
Mhm.
again, in terms of
I only took it
like
till grade
language,
9. It's only mandatory till grade 9.
but
What's-
language.
So
yeah.
with Filipinos speaking English, their accent is like, the V's and the P's. What from English to speaking Tagalog, what is our accent? What are things that
I
we
think-
say weird? Do you know?
I think it might be different. I almost wonder whether there's like
Maybe
a,
we're just
a
slow.
course for Filipino English, the American version. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and they have to
Mm.
twang a little bit of their.
Well, some
their-
Filipino Tagalog words, you have to like emphasize, and it's like a hard edge kind of thing.
But then, how can they learn how to sound?
So I mean,
more
like, so
Americanized, I mean?
Americans trying to say those Tagalog words, they don't put that hard edge.
Although
onto
I
it.
feel like there's a guy that I follow on Instagram, and he's a white guy married to a Filipino woman, and he's like Tagalog conversant. And so his Instagram channel is so huge, and he'll like put orders through, and just so like, but you can tell there's like still that American accent, right? Because he's not
Right.
Right.
he's not Filipino,
Right.
but it's amenable that he's like, wow, you are speaking Tagalog, man,
That's so
and,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
and it's just interesting. But it is language. Like language itself is like a lesson to do, right? So, but I wish my kids ate more Filipino food too. Like all they really are interested are like the lumpia. Maybe as babies it was just so portable and
Lumpia.
easy to like do this,
I mean, lumpia is so
Versus-
good.
right?
I don't think it's a baby thing. It's just
I
it's
haven't met a
just-
lumpia I never liked.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've never met a person that doesn't like lumpia after having it. You know,
Right.
like
That's
everyone
now-
always
now with the-
I
loves
can't think
lumpia.
of a person who didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I
Now
think
with the
that's
invention
the
of go ahead.
go ahead. Invention of
I
what?
was gonna say now with the invention of air fryers,
Yeah.
lumpia is
Oh,
even
yeah.
better
Oh,
because
yeah.
because
It's
cold
so
lumpia
good air
isn't good.
fried.
Air
Yeah.
fryer.
Yeah.
I mean,
my
like,
best friend.
So
After
good.
you wait a while, lumpia that's good
Gets soggy.
and so when you
Yeah.
air fry a soggy
Boom.
lumpia,
It's like fresh
It's
again.
fresh
Oh,
again.
it's like fresh again. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
air fryer.
that's what I'm
That's
saying.
a
Air
game
fryer
changer.
is
Yeah.
Air fryer.
so
Never
Even
done
good.
my
that.
pizzas now.
It's like air frying cold pizza. It's
so
like good again.
Right.
So
Like,
air
forget the
frying
Right,
microwave.
right.
Air fry that
soggy.
pizza.
Hmm.
Wow. See, from air fryers to language.
But what I
to
was gonna allude to though is despite maybe not having obviously language and different phrases or even just different ways to say things like go down or whatever, like maybe that doesn't translate to all four of us or all five of us, right, that are sitting here today, and regardless of our exposure to the heritage. But what I've come to notice, and even notice this on Twitch too, I mean, it happens all the freaking time when we're talking, just candidly. It always boils down to, like, the common denominator is always food.
Yeah.
It's always like, regardless of how much exposure you've had, like Amor's kids, regardless of them not knowing a lick of Tagalog at all, or even
Yeah.
if they didn't have, they don't have as much exposure to, people like, in this case, Amor's parents who, fully speak Tagalog, right? They're still experiencing the culture through
Oh yeah.
the food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll even talk about it, like, because we haven't we don't really talk we don't see my parents as much anymore, and but my kids will bring that up. They'll be like, yeah, remember, like they didn't remember the word bunsit, but they were describing it to me. I was like, oh,
Yes,
bunsit. They're
the
like, oh yeah,
noodles.
right, like,
Pancit.
yeah, they're like, there were noodles, and I was like, oh yeah, so like
And
it's
there's
just
a C in that word.
I know, right?
Not an S,
But
buddies.
they remember, like, all the dishes when we
Yeah.
would go visit my family, like
Yeah.
the older kids. They're just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was this, or I really liked
Yeah.
And-
they remembered the word lumpia. They're like, I like lumpia, and I was like, okay.
What's
Cool.
interesting
Favorite
is, like,
Tagalog word.
so my grandpa, my dad's dad, when he was sick, we had my tita, who lives in Philadelphia, come to Michigan and stay at the house. And it was interesting how much she loved to cook. It was like almost that she loved it more than we even loved eating the food. Like we would go over, I would like
Yeah.
go over to see my grandpa, and it would be around lunchtime, right? So she'd be like, you want some pancit? You want some suman? Some suman?
Ooh, suman.
And my dad tells the story that he was over there like cleaning or something, and she asked, "Oh, you want some suman?" And he was like, "I'm not really that hungry, but whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
sure, I'll have some suman." She was like, "Oh, okay," and then she like goes.
Go off and make
I
it.
wasn't
Yeah.
even ready.
She's just like so excited to like
Yes.
cook the
Yeah.
food,
Yes.
um,
No,
and
it's
see
true.
someone enjoy it, I guess.
It's true.
So
My mom
Yeah.
too is, like I said, a huge cook, but she doesn't know how to cook small. She came from
Oh,
a
yeah.
large family and a very
That's
extended,
so
and her love
interesting.
for cousins and stuff. Like
My
growing
mom
up, she said, I
that way
think
too.
her family home was basically home away from home for a lot of her cousins. Like they would just take whoever is coming for the week, and and so growing up, she was just used to cooking in vats and vats of like
Yeah.
pots and pans. Like
so
she's like, when I say witchcraft, I'm not joking. Like my mom is like
yeah, the
cooking
cauldron.
food.
Yeah,
The cauldron.
and it's lots, and so when I go, Mom, I want you to make me like some mongo, just make a small amount. She doesn't know how to make a small amount. Her
Yeah.
flavorings are for a party of 100. for example.
Mm.
And then I'll have so many in freezers forever that I'm sick of mongo after this request and I don't ask for it
Yeah.
again. But that's why I feel bad for her because she's downsized. She's in a condo right now. And so she's like, oh, she goes, what's the word? Tamad? How do you say that? I
Tamad.
kind of
Lazy.
I'm lazy. I'm lazy to cook.
Lazy stomach. Mhm.
Lazy stomach, right? Like I'm too lazy to cook because she doesn't know how to portion it down smaller for just herself.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'll just eat, a sandwich or I'll just have my salad. Like
Interesting.
and so we'll just go to Seafood City and just buy small dishes.
What does she buy there
ulam.
for herself?
She'll buy like ginataan or even the things that she likes to eat.
Okay.
And then of course she'll leave going, oh my God, that was so expensive. I could have made all of that. Like she's already calculating all that stuff, right? I could have made all of that and it'll be like bats and bats. I'm like, yeah, but we wouldn't finish it. And then we'd end up like tossing it out. So, it's
My parents always say whenever they go to a Filipino restaurant,
it's so expensive, right?
it's overpriced. It's like they think that the Filipinos are trying to take advantage
especially
of
if you know
people.
what to make, then yes. Like if you can make lumpia and say it was going to cost you all the materials for like $25, but you buy one lumpia for like $1, right? Then that's a lot, right? You can make a lot with the $25 like ground beef and everything. So it is perspective, but in the same vein, I always tell my mom I buy a latte for $5. Like, right? What is expensive or not expensive versus you make, so it's what you want to treat yourself. But, moving forward, I don't cook a lot of Filipino food because my mom's ruined me. She's just too good. And so I will resort to going to.
What Filipino food do you make?
That's part of
nothing.
it. Right?
I tried making mongo once, didn't taste at all like my mother's. And I'm like, it's just
And
like
you were
beans.
just like,
I made beans and there's chicken in it
like
and
chili.
chicharron.
Yeah.
It just like it looks like mongo and I'm just like eating it and I'm just so sad that I don't even know what I made. I tried to make what's this one? It's also a vegetarian dish with eggplant and okra and stuff like that. And you would have to put the fish sauce and
Patis?
and the what's the thing that Nicole likes the
Bagoong.
purple fish. Bagoong.
Bagoong.
But it's this dish too, and it didn't taste like my mom. So I am ruined. Like my mom is an excellent cook. So, or maybe it's just childhood nostalgia too, right? Like you think of what your parents created, and it's really what you crave, right? You crave that so much. So, you're all like, what can I ask my mom to make me right now?
Yeah.
I know, right? That's all I'm thinking of. It's just funny because like I just thought of that because I know that it's obvious. It's why we call ourselves Halo Halo, right? Like we're just like, all right, maybe if we come up with the food, like it'll resonate with everybody. And like any Filipino that I meet, really, like, it doesn't matter where they grew up or whatever it is, but as soon as we start talking about like lumpia, all of the Filipinos just start sounding off in chat.
Oh yeah,
and everybody's
like,
oh my God, the last time I had lumpia, whatever it is, right? Whatever Filipino food that I talk about that I had, even something as simple as like, oh, today, my Sunday, my typical Sunday breakfast is cooking myself some, fried egg, spam, and rice, and then making myself like some garlic rice, like
garlic
rice.
Love garlic
Yes.
From the week, right?
I make garlic rice.
Hell yeah.
Garlic rice
And then
is
I'll just
so
do
good.
that, and then people are just like, "Oh my God!" Like I can't remember the last time I had that. Like, and I was like, "Man, if only I threw in some like longanisa or tocino in there, then everybody's like,
tocino.
oh my God,
yeah.
Hallelujah.
Wait, you gotta
Yeah.
explain what that is to the people.
Longanisa is like it's just like a sweet kind of
It's a sausage.
Filipino
See,
sausage.
again, do you notice like a theme in Filipino cooking? It's sweet,
Mm.
right? So it's like a savory meat, but it's sweet. Same with the barbecue.
Longanisa is like it's
sweet.
a
And
sweet
sometimes they have it
meat.
spicy as well, but you can still have the undercurrent of sweetness there. Similar with tocino. I think tocino is very much marinated in brown sugar. And then
and they both have like a reddish color.
yes. And then when you actually like fry it up or however you cook it, I put it in air fryers.
Yeah.
I put tocino in air fryers.
Mommy cooks it. She cooks it in an air fryer.
So good. Like it gets
I've never had
all,
an air fryer
boiled.
before.
You have to buy an air fryer.
You boil it first.
I mean, I have an air fryer, but I've never tried it in there.
Yeah. So the tocino, I would usually boil it first just to remove the nitrates in my head.
Okay.
And then after like 7 minutes, I'll flip that into the air fryer and it toasts it, right? So it's like broils it. So all that caramelization
Game changer.
rises up. Oh, the food formula, it's all chemistry. It's next level. Like I
Yeah.
don't even eat rice with it. I just like eat it. Like, oh my god.
That's amazing.
As opposed to just frying
Yeah,
it.
because frying is so much talabsik, right? I hate
Right.
I hate messing
Yeah.
up my kitchen. I'm a very clean kitchen, and that's why I'm not like my mom either. My mom
Right.
doesn't like the cleaning part. I'll clean her kitchen, but she's clean. But
Oh,
I think for my cooking, it's very involved Filipino cooking. It's a lot of chopping of little things, a lot of preparing, right?
Well, that's why there's always the yaya kitchen, right? There's like
Yes,
the kitchen kitchen.
the
I
dirty
don't know if
kitchen.
you guys
There's
ever
the
heard the
dirty
dirty
kitchen.
kitchen or the dirty kitchen or the yaya kitchen. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys ever
Yeah.
experienced that, but for
Yeah.
chat or for anybody that's not Filipino, there's always the proper kitchen. The kitchen you
Yes.
show off and
Yes.
that never gets used. Never.
Never.
It's always
Beautiful
pristine
state of the art
clean.
appliances.
Very
Yeah.
clean.
And just a couple steps away
Yeah, the
is a
dirty
is
kitchen.
a dirty kitchen where you do all the chopping, all the
Yes.
smells, all of the
Mhm.
frying, all the cooking, all the
Yes.
stuff that just
Mhm.
would screw up that beautiful kitchen is done in that kitchen. And it's the
Yep.
dirty kitchen, or yaya is a term for like the helpers of the people that
Yes.
Yeah.
the helpers of that particular household. So that's
Yeah.
where they would do their cooking. They wouldn't do the
Yeah.
cooking in the actual kitchen.
No,
Um,
no.
So that's why
That's
it's
only in
another
the
term for
Philippines,
that
though.
as well.
Dirty kitchen.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
the
there's some
Philippines.
dirty kitchens here. Like I have some aunties in Hamilton.
Oh, they
and
have
a-
dirty
They have a
kitchens?
Yeah.
basement kitchen, and that's
Oh.
the
I
one
have-
that's all dirty-ish.
Okay.
And then in the second floor. But another culture that does this actually huge is Portuguese families.
They have a dirty kitchen.
A lot of my friends are Portuguese. Their
Yeah.
parents' kitchen upstairs is beautiful and like still from catalog, and then they have the kitchen downstairs because they're also big in seafood, right? So to
Mm.
fry up
Oh,
that
they
seafood
Oh.
is it's a
Yeah,
bit
it
more aromatic,
smells.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Right.
but there's a lot of foods that I miss that I just don't cook anymore. Part of it is the smell, and actually
Yeah.
that triggered me when you said the smell, because when we first came to Canada, right, like my mom loved to cook, but we didn't realize, especially during winter, that your house doesn't get aired out a lot. Like it's just cold, so everything like your coats and everything, all that smell will just
Yeah.
go to your coat,
Oh.
especially if it's deep fried, right? All that oil. So you
Yeah.
go out and you don't realize that
That you smell.
it hasn't
You
aired
smell.
out, and so you smell like your
Yeah.
house smell, like that Filipino smell. And so over the years, my parents, thank God for Febreze, but learned better to, I guess, put away coats elsewhere or have a dirtier kitchen, or just bigger vents and everything. But when you said it smells, that kind
It's
of
that
triggered.
Filipino party smell. Whenever you go
Filipino
to
party
a Filipino
smell.
party,
Boom, oils.
that smell.
Yeah.
Oil.
It's
Yeah.
not bad. It's not a bad smell.
But
it's,
it's a
But it's a
Filipino party
distinct smell.
It's distinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's distinct.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
know it.
you just came from a Filipino household,
Yeah.
a Filipino
Yeah.
party,
Yes.
because
That's true.
yeah,
It's true.
it's like
But
it's like
when
walking out of Korean barbecue.
Yeah.
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 But I don't know if you guys also grew up. My dad loved tuyo.
Toyo.
Tuyo. It's like
Oh.
the fried fish,
The fried
Oh.
fish.
right? And I
Yep.
mean, it's a acquired taste, I suppose. No, Rob has never
No,
had
Rob
tuyo.
Never,
does it.
never had it.
But
No.
sometimes it could be smelt, so it's a lot tinier. And my mom and dad will like put that in like a batter and fry that, like lots of little tiny fish. But there's the tuyo that's such a salty fish. And in my dad's, I guess, area from Tarlac, he's northern. He's from Tarlac, and he would deep fry this fish, but specifically in our backyard. My mom would
Mm.
not have him at all bring
Mm.
this cooking inside the house because it
What's the
would
English
just,
name of this fish?
I have no idea. I
think
have no
it's,
idea.
I'm looking it
It's
up
not
right
a-
now.
It's not. It's
Anchovy?
not.
Is it an
no,
anchovy?
anchovy is really tiny. And
Anchovies,
it's not,
delice.
it's not tilapia.
Yeah.
Oh, delice.
Delice.
Dilis.
Delice. Yeah.
Yes, dilis.
Yeah.
It's not
A
tilapia.
little small.
Tilapia
Little
is
tiny
like,
ones.
yeah. Tilapia is bigger, but this one is like literally
Ooh,
like
this
maybe
looks good.
3 to 4 inches across. And you eat the whole thing, head and all. Like it gets so crispy when they deep fry it.
Oh.
But my dad would have rice with it,
That looks
and
so
then
good.
he would actually put milk
hold
on
on.
the rice.
How does it look like?
Interesting.
They're gonna focus. You got
Oh,
an
yes,
egg
with the
there
tomato. Yes,
with the
that's
garlic
yeah.
rice. Looks
Need the
Oh,
so
I
tomato,
see it.
good.
right?
I see it.
Yes. And the egg, exactly, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
that looks
But
so
I guess
good.
my
Yeah.
dad, maybe if it's his family thing or maybe his regional area, they like to make their rice a bit wet,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
it's dry rice, but then he'll put like some milk, like milk.
Okay. So
In
this
the
is so
rice.
interesting. This is
Uh-oh.
so interesting.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
My dad
So they
when
do that.
when he was growing up with his siblings and my tita that I mentioned,
Yeah.
Tita Andressa. She used to be like their kind of like babysitter, I guess.
Okay.
She would make their rice and then had like sweet coffee and put coffee.
That's me. That's me.
okay.
That's my mom's
Coffee on
region.
the- they would
Coffee
have
and
they would
That's
rice.
my
have
Lola.
they would
That's my
have
Lola.
coffee
Oh,
on the
you're
rice.
Coffee on the
So
rice.
I did not know
And I
about
think
this.
again, the
I didn't know about
sweetness
this
of
until
So
like a
it.
you're
couple
not
months
the only
ago.
one.
I'm
Did not
not
know
the
about
only
this.
one.
Because she's always
But
told
it's-
me this.
but
And
it's
she's
very,
2 years old.
but I think it's very regional. I think it's regional
Huh.
because my dad is like north, and that was like
It's
milk
north.
under rice.
Yep.
Milk under rice to cut the saltiness of the fish, right? Because rice can cut the
Interesting.
saltiness of the fish, but that
Yeah.
I can see that.
cream, that creaminess of the milk cuts it a bit more, so it's
Mm.
palatable.
Hmm.
And then the coffee on the
Oh.
rice is south, like it's in Mindoro region or Batangas region even,
Yeah,
right?
Batangas. Yeah.
And so yes, they always wondered why I was so hyper when I was a little girl.
Are you supposed to give like babies coffee?
But my Lola would always give me coffee,
Look at
and it's in my rice. You
Coffee
want
on the
some
rice.
Coffee and
Wow.
rice, and
Coffee
it's,
on the
it's
rice.
not black rice. It would be even coffee with condensed milk. Oh my god, so good!
It-
And
it's
then they
actually
just
really good.
Milo?
It's
and
really,
then they
really
put a
good.
little bit on the rice, and then you'll also eat that with
Milo,
your egg
yeah.
and your tocino and stuff like that, kind of all
Ah.
mixed in. And ketchup.
That was my Lola.
Oh,
That was my
delicious.
Lola, but she did Ovaltine too.
Oh yes, mhm.
Really?
Oh.
Yes, Milo, Ovaltine. And I
Yeah.
I
think
gotta
it's just
eat
that they
before
don't
the
like the rice
episode.
dry.
I'm
It's
so hungry right
interesting, right?
I know. I'm for
so
sure gonna eat
hungry
after
right
this,
now.
dude.
Yeah.
I had an
Cheers.
aloha. I had an
I gotta
aloha
go.
burger.
I gotta go. See ya.
The Filipino
All
restaurant.
these
I'm
things
there
I
now.
gotta, like,
Yeah.
try out.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's
We
just.
just call this like the eat all day, talk about food all day kind of
Oh my god.
Podcast. Yeah.
podcast.
It's,
not even-
it'll
not even
probably
Lego
turn into
thing
that
anymore.
naturally anyway. And I know
Yes.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
we've talked about that with like for future episodes and whatnot. Just spoiler alert. I mean we've talked about just ideas for future episodes and whatnot. And I would
Yeah.
imagine that a lot of it is going to be centered around
Around the food.
I love
Yeah.
it.
centered around
Yes.
food and centered around our non-Filipino friends to potentially try
Yes.
some
Yes.
food
Yes.
or
Some
be
I wonder if
introduced to that.
in Utah, do they have Filipino Jollibee or anything? We gotta check.
That's a great question.
If there's a restaurant.
I
don't
doubt
know.
it, but I'm down to
I-
to
But
see.
even look for
See.
Filipino restaurants. You never know. Like, I mean,
We
it's
can look online
2023,
now,
right?
Well, not now, but
Oh, not now. I'm like
also-
ready
it's
to like
also-
research.
It's also Utah.
yeah, it's also Utah.
It's also Utah. I mean, that's the whole point that like why they have the con Friday through Sunday, because typically Sunday everything's like shut down.
Closed.
Like nobody does
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Right.
on Sundays. So
Interesting.
What
there
is the
might
big church there called again? It's the big church is there, right?
it's a big Mormon
Mormon.
Mormon
Mormon. Yeah.
population, right. So should be interesting, but I'm excited for that. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's just funny that despite our various levels of ethnicity, it's always going to come down to
The
food. I think that's what brings us
Agreed.
together. Like,
Agreed.
we don't have to know. Nobody, like, maybe 3 of the 4 of us will know what palo is, or maybe
Everybody
two,
knows-
two, two
Everybody
of the 4
knows
of us-
palo.
I know. I mean, just an example, right? Or like, what if two of the 4 of us will know how to say where's your restroom, or nasan yung nasan yung CR, yung CR mo, nasan yung CR mo.
CR. Ask Rob,
right?
what's CR?
Rob, do you know CR?
Yeah,
No,
CR.
I have no idea.
Amor, CR, the
I know.
comfort room.
Comfort room.
The comfort
Oh,
room,
okay.
aka the bathroom.
I've heard the
Restroom?
phrase. Yes. I've not heard the CR though. But I've heard comfort room.
Oh my
It took me a
gosh.
long time to figure that out too. What is a CR?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Why
CR.
comfort?
Because
The
you-
CR.
Because you have
the phone
comfort
was so
when you
polite.
when you relieve
I think it's pretty
you have
obvious.
you
right?
relieve
When
you relieve yourself.
Relief.
Yeah.
You feel comfortable after you leave the room. So you're the comfort room. When you eat
So
or tae,
comfortable.
You feel comfortable. So it's the comfort room.
Comfort,
Oh my
come on.
god.
That's so funny.
No.
Again, the
Come
Filipino is so
forward,
polite,
come on.
right? They're just so polite that they have these terminologies out there.
Yeah.
Like I would go and say, "Where's the washroom?" They wouldn't know what I was talking about, or the restroom. Oh, CR, and then
The
they
CR.
would,
Are.
Right.
if
They
you
wouldn't
ask for
call
the
it.
washroom or
That's
bathroom,
hilarious.
they don't know what you're talking about.
They wouldn't call it like the taehan or the ihian, right? They wouldn't call it by like the specific place in which you do those things. Like that's like really like it's uncomfortable for them,
Yeah.
right?
That's so rude.
Yeah.
None of us
Kakahiya.
ever have these
Kaka.
human
So interesting.
expulsions.
Right. Kakahiya or
But
very
we can
embarrassing.
have CR, but we
That's
have
amazing.
CR. It's very
So-
classy.
So when so you know how like in restaurants in the US they'll say like restroom like
Mhm.
around where it is. Will it say comfort room?
I
in the
don't
Philippines?
know.
It will.
Yeah,
I
are they
remember it said
labeled
com-
as
You
such?
saw
It
it?
said
As
comfort
comfort?
room.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
Ah.
I remember that.
Oh. Maybe
I've
so.
always known that as just
Comfort.
like the universal term. Like
Yeah,
I won't ask for where the bathroom is, where the washroom is.
Yeah.
I'd have to say
CR.
nasa yung CR, nasa yung CR mo.
That's so interesting. The
But that's-
CR.
I did not
Before you
see
go to the Philippines, watch our show. You're gonna find lots of tips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
For
Seriously.
the
Right.
the
But
foreign
it's-
tourists.
Me watching them back.
Yeah.
But even then, it's just kind of fun, and I think that's the whole point, right? The whole point
Mhm.
of the show, and I think why it was really fun to get both of today is your two perspectives, Rob and,
Yeah.
and Amor, in that they're very contrasting, differences, and I think that's the whole point of the show, but not just to other Filipinos that are watching us, but like, you mentioned what was the other ethnicity that had a dirty kitchen?
Portuguese.
Portuguese, right?
Yeah.
See, like there's so many other
Mhm.
ethnicities that'll share a lot of these different cultures, or even just the whole fact of not being able to teach your kids, your original your ethnicity's language, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the struggle that is, or maybe you also struggled with living in a predominantly Caucasian city or school, and you felt as how Amor did, or you're a little younger, and in which Rob, you didn't really even feel that, or that wasn't even a thing. Which,
Yeah.
gosh, like you're so lucky to have experienced that.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing, and I'm glad that that's the case, because in
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
head,
sure.
like somebody growing up in Michigan probably would have experienced the same thing growing up in the Pacific Northwest, like Amor, but
Mhm.
just a year, a couple
Mhm.
years,
Difference.
difference. Like that's not the case, right? It maybe if you did grow up, a decade earlier,
Yeah.
maybe you would have experienced that in Michigan,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? In which now, nowadays you don't, and so it's really interesting to get those perspectives, and we'll definitely take a deep dive, I think, into a lot of that moving forward, and it would be really interesting to bring on other Filipinos, other cultures, and take deep dives into just experiencing both or different cultures at once and trying to integrate that together. And I think it's just interesting for us living in North America, where we're almost forced to kind of do that, to integrate that, or even like relearn that, because at one point in our lives we pushed it away and didn't want anything to do with it, because we're just trying to assimilate, and now we're going back like, dude, why did I do that? Like, why did I push that culture away? Why I wish that I didn't. I know I feel regret that I didn't speak Tagalog back to my parents. Like they speak Tagalog to me all the time, and I've lost that. Luckily I can understand it, but if my parents are talking crap about my future kids, they're screwed. Like there's nobody there. I have to be the one to translate.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting, and I'm glad that we're doing this show, and I hope that you guys in the audience, you guys relate, or you guys want your input and even want us to talk about some particular topics. Make sure to comment that and let us know, because I know we have a lot of things and topics that we want to talk about that we're excited to talk about. Bring on a bunch of really cool guests that we want to bring on and talk about those things with them. But please feel free to comment, different topics you'd want us to cover, different people you'd want us to talk to within, the Lego brick building community, within the YouTube and Twitch communities. I think this is definitely a fun podcast that we can definitely keep going and talk about all sorts of these things, regardless of whether or not it boils back down to food. Talking about
food is so universal, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So there's that. I'm not sure if there was anything else you guys wanted to cover that, but that was kind of like a little
I want some
wrap.
food now.
I'm really hungry. That's what I want to cover.
Yeah. We're gonna cover next episode. Hopefully, cover other hosts. Get to know them more, and then as soon as we kind of knock that out, we'll bring in more people.
Start inviting some guests. Get some more food in here.
Yeah.
And do the thing. So with that, magandang gabi, magandang araw to all of you, and peace out.
Bye.